All right, you bitches. Up you get. Let's go. Let's rise and shine. No complaining about the cold 2 days in a row. You get 1 day to do that, and yesterday was the coldest day, so move the fuck on.
Get over it.
Yeah, we do not have time this morning for any, it's so cold. And listen, let me tell you, if I see one more video of people complaining about the cold, I'm just going to play them this one. This is it, right?
Can you ask them to make it warm in here? It's too cold. It's extremely cold, and it's wrong.
It's wrong. That's the EFF's Mbuyiseni Ndlozi and
Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi.
Sorry, doctor. Yes, because these days the only people that we call doctors are people who are not actually people who could save lives.
Oh no, the only people we call doctors are the people who did humanities.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
So we and honorary degrees.
Yes,
the ones who get their honorary degrees, we absolutely love. We love those people. Here is a brilliant line from Jason Goliath, and I promise you we'll move on from all of this nonsense straight afterwards.
You understand how lucky we are? South Africa, almost 20 rand to the dollar, and yet we have all the special effects that America have. Tornado, there was snow, earthquake. Guys, come on. Hey, South Africa, we'll show you how we can do things on a budget. Come on.
I love it. That's magic. So I was thinking, where's Bakh'abantu gone? He's gone. Oh, there he is. Okay. Jeez, I thought they'd killed you.
Well. I am in white country. Well, Ryan did walk in from the West Rand.
Aren't you now? You're a resident of Sandton now. You've got to start anteing up. You've got to you got to stop this 12 years a slave mentality.
Oh no, Gareth. The thing is to milk it. You see, now I stay in Sandton now, but I need to remember my roots. I need to start wearing expensive belts and expensive shoes, but always talk like this and tell the people and remember that I am very poor and everything. But yeah, no.
And occasionally just lift your fist and go, man, for no good reason. I think it is high time. I woke up yesterday and I thought it's so cold and there's so many things about the world at the moment that piss me off. And it's not because I'm old and grumpy, I promise you. I was like this when I was 19. It's because things are so mad at the moment. I just wish the aliens would invade and be done with us. I know they're out there. We all know they're out there. The US Navy just told us they're out there.
So you want them to walk in and enslave us? We need a superior. We talked about AI yesterday. We need a superior intelligence. So if we can't get to AI, let the aliens come in and enslave us.
I'm telling you.
Let them run this show.
Bring on the aliens. I'm excited by the prospect of aliens invading because I'll tell you what they will do. They will see straight away what we've been talking about for ages is that these politicians have to go. And then everything will get better. Because they'll just herd up all the world's politicians. I mean, so there's a big conference going on in Russia or in Vilnius, in Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, one of those three shitty countries.
Old Soviet Union.
One of those Baltic, nobody. If you really sit down with even the most intelligent people, you tell them, okay, so which one's Latvia, which one's Lithuania, which one is Estonia? They don't know.
They all speak the same language.
But they don't. Nobody knows. No. So let's just stop with this. They should be. Almost said they should belong to Russia. That would be the wrong thing.
That's what Putin wants. Oh, Gareth advocating for Putin.
They should just be one country. I mean, really, there's no reason for those three to be separate. Yeah. Anyway, Vilnius is where they're getting together. I think that's in Lithuania.
Yeah.
And they hopefully are going to come to some. Thank God, the adults have finally, hopefully, prevailed. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers, but I'm not holding out much hope, because finally they're going to get together and actually plan a way out of this. Because for the last year and a half, how long has it been? Year and a half,
yeah.
We've been waiting for something to happen here, for some way for the people of Ukraine to not be killing each other.
Just to interrupt you, our guest just walked in.
Special guest, Dr. Jonathan Witt. This is a nice surprise. So they're doing this thing to me on the show now. How's it, Witt?
Good morning. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Yeah. You too.
They're doing this thing to me on the show now. I suppose you guys have started to think that you need to inject something new in here, which is good because I do think that's necessary.
No. Rena decided that you're a cat and you need to be stimulated with nice and colorful stuff. So we need to throw things at you like a toddler. Colors.
Smart, interesting guests. I like this.
Yeah.
How are you?
Going slightly deaf, but other than that,
which one are you on here?
a little bit back up. Yeah, there we
You're
go.
also a deaf old man.
So I'm following in Ben's footsteps. So I'm not as bad as Leanne. I don't have a hip yet.
Jesus, did you see her hip? Did you see
the hearing aid?
Did you see the state of her? The head
but
of
hearing her
femur?
trying to describe medicine is just. I mean, that's generally the state of,
Is that most people's hips?
Spent hips. No, but
Spent hips.
Does my hip look like that?
No, probably not.
Is your hip spent?
No, she had that necrosis thing.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
necrosis is one of the most scary words. So someone told me that they know somebody who's got necrotizing fasciitis.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus,
No,
that's an ugly
that's
thing.
worse than necrosis.
That's a bad thing.
That's when the bacteria starts creeping up.
Oh,
It's yeah.
All right, so
Usually starts by your asshole, by the way.
Oh, fuck. Well, the asshole's a difficult place for things to stay clean.
No, not if you
really.
shower
If you
once a day at
Oh,
least.
you do it properly.
No.
Get
but
a bidet.
what I mean, guys, is what its main function. Please, we got a doctor in the house now, and you study this stuff. I'm leveling up now. So, the asshole is a place of terrible bacteria, terrible filth,
Yes.
terrible smells. So that's where a lot of bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, but like it's an exit, so stuff is not supposed to be coming
Yeah,
through
but,
unless you're doing.
Don't tell me that isn't the first port of call for anything that goes wrong in the whole sort of abdominal area. You got to check that. Are there still people who specialize in proctology?
Yes, but they don't call themselves proctologists anymore.
What do they call themselves?
Colorectal surgeons. They changed the entire image. I'm not even joking. It
even
was like a
worse.
massive
But
PR thing.
Isn't that worse though?
No, now it's like a very respected field.
Colorectal.
Colorectal
I think
surgeons.
that sounds worse than
No,
proctology.
they're proper. Yeah, but
And who? Tell me again, because I remember we spoke about this years ago. I don't even think we did it on the show. But what kind of people in medical school go, yeah, that's going to be my area?
Like I wanna know all about the asshole.
Just pull that microphone close.
Well,
I just want to know all
the
about
problem
the
is that surgeons watch like shows like Grey's Anatomy and things like that, and then they all want to go and become surgeons, and then actually
It's like
being
lawyers watch Boston Legal.
and then it's nothing like that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Are you
So-
showing your age there,
so-
Gareth? Boston Legal. Talk about suits.
It was a good show. Ally McBeal, man.
You
They
remember
want
that?
to show age.
I never watched Grey's Anatomy.
Me too.
Before that, there was something else. LA Law. Yes,
LA
LA
Law.
Law.
LA Law was big, and then there was also there was something in between too, where like lawyers were shown to be these really cool, really.
I think is that the James Spader one with Shatner. There's also
That was
one,
Boston.
That was Boston Legal. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I know this
But
stuff.
only Shatner was cool. And Spader.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
James Spader was cool. Come on.
No, he was. No.
That was a
Come
good
on.
show.
Okay, no. Like just to reel it back, Gareth, please introduce our guest to the
Yeah,
audience.
all right. Yeah, let's because this is what I've got to do now. Be
You must say it
disciplined,
like you
Artie.
said in Buyuseni Dlozi's title.
So here
Exactly.
is Dr. Jonathan Witt, but he's an
MD.
actual doctor,
MD.
not a colorectal surgeon, but
No,
an
didn't go that way.
anesthesiologist. Do you see anesthesiologist or anesthetist?
Anesthetist.
Either or. The Americans say anesthesiologist. Some here say that.
Oh, here he is, an anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
It just sounds like the longer they
Yeah,
can
the
make
longer
it.
it gets, then you must be smarter.
Are you, though, able to save lives like Dr. Jill Biden?
I mean, no one is as talented as that.
'Cause she's
I mean,
the
she's
real.
keeping a corpse going as the United States president.
Actually,
proper
Weekend at,
talent.
You know what?
Weekend at Bernie's is running
I'll
the
take,
country.
you know what? I'm taking it all back because I'm terrified of upsetting Dr. Jill Biden. She probably has the nuclear football under her guard.
Yeah,
I would. It's not under. Joe doesn't know what it is. He'll throw it like a football. Here's the deal.
he's
Let me
like,
throw this at you.
Run long,
why
Hunter.
is there
Run
someone
long.
following me with a
Run-
briefcase wherever I go? It's probably why he was running up the stairs and tripping. He's like, this guy keeps following him with
Leave
his
me alone.
briefcase.
All right, so you came in at just the right moment. We were talking about Russia and Ukraine. I hate to go straight into
My
the
family comes from Vilnius.
really
Yeah,
Lithuania.
yeah, like 4 generations back.
Oh,
Actually, I should know that. I
Yeah,
should
you
know that.
should.
So, okay, but you still can't tell me the difference between
No, of course not.
Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Right?
Not a chance.
Proving my point. And it's not like they were very nice to the Jews back in the day. That's kind of why you're not there anymore.
Probably, yeah.
And if you had stayed, you might not be here anymore.
Could be,
You know,
yes.
so let's not give them too much credit for being like this peaceful Baltic state either. We know what happened.
peaceful
Russia.
Baltic state.
Yeah.
It sounds paradoxical or
No,
oxymoron.
but look at the rest of the countries around that Baltic area. You've got Finland and Sweden, and they're all very like now. Back in the Viking days, not so much. It's all a question of time.
Well, we go down like what Finland and whatnot, And then, okay, just over the Baltic line, Netherlands, is that good?
No, that's further. That's not even the Baltic anymore.
No.
'Cause once you go past Jutland, which is Denmark,
Yeah.
which sticks up like a middle finger in Europe, after that, it's no longer the Baltic. Then it's just the North Sea.
Yes. And just the sort of wet Europeans.
So you can't call yourself Baltic.
In fact, the further west you go, the worse they get.
Probably.
A French.
Probably.
That's where we got Gareth. Okay, cool.
we got to talk about Holland later on, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. But let me just hear your thoughts, because this is why I love this idea of a surprise guest on a Tuesday. So it won't only be a surprise for me, as you explained it, like a cat that needs to have things thrown at it to keep things interesting, but also because when we do have guests in and they have lots and lots of points of view, and they also are well-read and well-informed and are controversial, which you have no fear of being, they bring in interesting stuff that I might not be able to come up with, or Bakh'abantu might not be able to come up with. So let's hear your take on this summit that's going to happen now in Vilnius. Is this finally a chance for the adults to sit down and figure out a way out of this war?
Nah, not a chance.
You don't think so?
I mean, I don't think so. Well, the question is if you were running the show and your option was to make $100 billion this year,
right,
or to give it all up for peace.
Are you talking military-industrial complex, all of that shit?
I mean, the entire Ukraine war is a money laundering project. You really think Americans? I mean, I don't mean the people with little flags in their bios, but
didn't they just send
Nancy Pelosi?
Didn't they just send so much
in Ukraine?
They sent so much ammunition to the Ukraine that they now don't even have enough for their own military at home.
Well, it's helping them to retool, actually, because what happened is the US hasn't been in a war for like a very active war for about 20 years, right? Well, no, they were in Afghanistan and in Iraq and all the rest.
I did bring this up, Doctor, that they are using Ukraine as an R&D lab.
Call him Doctor when he's on the show. He's not operating.
Jonathan. It's Jonathan with my patients anyway.
It's Jono.
Yeah? It's whatever you want it to be.
They are using Ukraine as an R&D testing lab. They're sending weapons. They're sending their old stuff.
Even that, it's like, why are they sending cluster bombs now? Like, you think they're sending cluster bombs because they really want to like help no, cluster bombs don't win wars anyway.
No, cluster bombs
they're just a way of
terrible for civilians.
Terror, essentially.
I mean, and they stay unexploded sometimes for generations.
Sure. And last year, I saw an excerpt last year when Jen Psaki was still the White House press secretary. She turned around and said someone else had been asked about Russia using cluster weapons. And she said, well, that's a war crime and we'd have to investigate that. Now they're supplying them.
Yeah,
so
willy-nilly. That's amazing how that's changed.
I think there's a lot going on. I think they're depleting their old military weapons so they can build new military weapons for themselves. And I know this, you can track the money. They send $8 billion across. Zelensky and co take about $2 billion of it, and then $6 billion comes back to Lockheed and all the other companies, and they buy weapons. And the nephew of every single congressman sits on the board of this company and that company.
I mean, long before this, Hunter Biden was already on Burisma's board.
Have you seen the latest on that? That's very interesting as well. Well, there's a guy who was a head of a think tank in DC called Gal Luft, and he used to run a think tank in DC, which was nonpartisan, well respected, used to write articles for Time, Newsweek, you name it, appear on NBC, all the rest. And he was in business with an ex-CIA director.
Yeah.
And in 2019, he met with the FBI in Hungary or something, in Budapest, and gave them a whole bunch of intel on the Bidens doing dodgy shit with the Chinese. And he had like receipts for all of this stuff. And then they basically they sent a whole team, and then they basically closed off his testimony, didn't show it to anyone.
Oh, yeah.
And then he suddenly has a warrant for his arrest in Malta.
And got rid of him, huh?
Yeah. So now he's on the run. He admits that he's a fugitive. But there's a lot of sort of stuff, and when you check out all the sort of things he said, they do check out. So there's tons of corruption going on in that. It's weird. It's interesting to me that we think South Africa is so corrupt. It's not that we're so corrupt; it's that we're bad
at disguising our corruption.
It's not even that we're bad at disguising it, and we're just bad at like almost doing it. Like the Americans have a system where they're so corrupt, but their system keeps going. So our guys have just obviously gone a little bit too far, stolen the system completely blind. So it started to fail.
They're amateurish.
Yes,
that's the difference.
No, the Americans are absolute professionals.
What do you say, Bakh'abantu?
No. It's that thing we talked about, Gareth, the other week. It's that these people have their hands in the cookie jar and they no longer hide it anymore. They're so bad at being bad.
But it's interesting you say that. I think that the Americans are also becoming bad at it because they're getting messy. I mean, you mentioned Nancy Pelosi just now. I mean, there was obviously insider trading going on there, and she didn't even bother to disguise it.
But in America, they have lobbyists.
Hunter Biden and the big guy, which is Joe, being named in written document. You know, the important thing is if you're going to steal, there shouldn't be any written evidence of that. You don't write down, where's the 10% in an email like a fucking ape. This is what Hunter Biden, where is the 10% for the big guy? He's sitting right next to me. If he doesn't get his 10%, we will make life very uncomfortable for you.
That's probably going to be their argument. Why would we ever have written this down?
Right. Okay. At this point, I think it's time to ring the shame bell for the Bidens.
Yeah, that's a good
Shame.
idea. Except they won't hear it. So, all right, we got a lot to get to this morning. I don't want to eat up all of our breakfast right in the first sitting. I've got a friend who has two breakfasts. He has a normal breakfast and he has a bigger breakfast, and he's actually a healthy human being.
I can imagine it if he exercises.
All right, so you don't think this thing in Vilnius is going to amount to anything because no one wants an off-ramp. They'd rather have people die as long as they can keep ratcheting up the money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I hope it's not. I mean, I would like to see the war end, firstly, because I want every single pothole in South Africa to stop being blamed on the war. And every time you go to the shops and you can't find something, it's the war.
I know.
I mean, it's the most ridiculous
they've been saying that about sunflower oil since the start of this thing. In fact, like a week into the war, they're like, whoa, sunflower oil.
Except we produce all our own sunflower oil in this country.
And then they told us that they told us we import all the sunflower oil from a place in Ukraine and whatnot to the war.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of things. I mean, at one point, Volkswagen, the entire group, they can't manufacture Porsches because the wiring looms are made in Ukraine. And I'm like, you're a multinational company. Even if that were true, like, come on.
Contingency plan.
If that is true, how embarrassing that your management is so shit at their jobs that they didn't foresee a full.
The Russian military was on the border of Ukraine for the entire first year of Biden's presidency.
You didn't think something was going to happen?
It's like, it's obvious. It's the same as now. If you're manufacturing chips in Taiwan, you might want to consider another site.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to stay the best port of call for you if you're buying microchips.
Yeah,
especially car manufacturers should be very aware of this.
Well, did you see China has just put a not a trade embargo, but like trade limits on certain rare metals, so the cobalt. They're not selling as much cobalt as they were to the United States, which is one of the main components of EVs and everything electric. So, and of course, they've spent the last 20 years coming into Africa and making deals to mine all of that.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of resource control happening.
But you've seen the mines though, like to get an Apple iPhone, you've seen what the people go through, and these people tweet about saving the planet, and you see these women who are being held at gunpoint when mining this stuff, this cobalt.
It's horrendous. No, it's horrendous. We can laugh about it and say, oh well, the cost of progress. But I must say that the people who are the loudest about, oh, we've got to build a sustainable economy and ESG and environmentalism and let's save the planet and sustainable energy. Those people who use those catchphrases are the ones who don't give two shits about any of that
They just care about the tweets and having the flag there on their Twitter profile. Instead, when China's using child labor, literal child labor to make literal iPhones for everyone, and then they're just like, oh, send from an iPhone. That's what they want. They want that hashtag, send from an iPhone.
Let's just talk about all that shit for a minute, because I said yesterday morning, waking up, we could do with a little global warming.
I heard that.
I'm not opposed to the idea of things getting hot Again, I don't mind if summers are 1 or 2 degrees warmer, and if winters are 1 or 2 degrees warmer
Well,
too.
the plants wouldn't either.
Plants wouldn't mind. I don't
Most
know
of the animals
So
wouldn't.
who are we worried about here when they say that the planet? I mean, who are
Well,
they really
the
talking
sea levels
about?
will rise, and as you know, Barack Obama has bought a very nice house on the coast of Martha's Vineyards.
Okay. No, counter argument here. The sea levels rise, that imbalances the ocean. If the glaciers melt, the ocean's imbalanced. That affects the weather, and then we get tornadoes and all this stuff.
What you mean, like an ice age might have unbalanced the ocean?
Well,
No, if it gets hotter, you get more hurricanes. In theory,
in theory, the ocean gets imbalanced.
So then, don't build your house next to the sea.
Come on, Gareth. So you're going to sell your seaside house in
I don't
Jeffreys
have
Bay?
one. I don't have one.
Oh, you didn't disclose that. I'm joking. Tax evasion. No, I'm joking.
Shut up, man. Damn it. Don't you know SARS are... No, actually, speaking of SARS, I may have an interview lined up with the commissioner of SARS at some point in the next couple of weeks, which could be very interesting. There's a lot we got to ask him. And we may just...
like, why is he stealing my money every month?
Correct. Yeah. And what are they doing with it? And why should we continue to pay this money?
Yeah.
Because what are we getting for it?
What are we getting?
He'll tell you how you're helping some poor people because they're paying grants with it,
not
essentially.
True. I want to see who. Show me. Show me.
Well,
Show me
receipts. 17 million, aren't there?
No, but I want to know which particular
person
poor
is
people
getting
my
your
money is going to.
That's not a well.
Right?
That'll be a good reason for them to have central bank digital currencies because
Oh,
then
they can track it.
Then they can track exactly where the money's going. You could even see it as they steal it from your accounts. You know, when you get to the shops and you're like, you can't afford this.
Just to tie these two things that we've been discussing together, I saw Greta Thunberg and Vladimir Zelensky met yesterday, or they met this weekend, or something like that.
She's a world leader now.
She's a world leader.
How dare you not call her a world leader?
Surly, grumpy Scandinavian girl with pigtails, and the actor, comedian, president of the only country engaged in a hot war.
He's a porno star, right? Also, forgetting about that.
Is he a porn star as well?
Oh, there is a
No,
porn.
man.
Nah.
He was in a very embarrassing music video, but not porn.
Yes, very embarrassing music video and a show where he played the piano with his penis.
Well,
okay.
Well, okay, no, sorry,
Right.
sorry.
These are the people.
Sorry, Jonathan.
Just let me point out, these are the people in charge of the world. You know, I think of like when I grew up, there were people that I learned about in history, and like Winston Churchill and Ronald Reagan and
FDR.
and Mikhail Gorbachev and Francois Mitterrand, and these were people who were imposing.
Even the people at the time,
Nelson
like Jacques
Mandela,
Chirac,
for God's sake,
was like,
what speeches do we always quote, Jonathan? What speeches, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall?
Yeah, exactly.
Where is that now with Cyril holding a summit?
Cyril. And now we have.
Out of it.
It's like we've got the D team on leadership at the moment, and everybody always goes, problem in the world is leadership, but these are the people we've all been implicated in voting for.
Yeah,
right?
but leadership. So when those people became, so when like JFK became president, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing you did if you were smart and a leader and you were in high society was you ran for office.
Right.
And so you did end up getting some people in leadership who actually were pretty good at leadership and who actually kind of had a clue about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole world changed about 40 years ago, where we suddenly started doing everything through consulting firms.
Yeah. Yes.
And legal firms.
Yes.
These giant corporates, right?
This is it.
And then what ended up happening is basically all the people, because those things then started paying more, and obviously the career was longer. I mean, if you're a consultant at like one of the big McKinsey, and you're going to end up as a partner, you're going to have a 25-year-long career before they retire you a bit early because you're starting to shake or sexually harass the women and they don't appreciate it.
And a good
kind of shit.
a good future for you then as an external consultant after that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That, and also, I mean,
major runway.
You're going to make a fortune and you're still going to be connected to all these politicians. So now what we have is we have like all the leaders and the smart people end up going to the corporates. It's the same as NASA. Why is NASA not sending rockets into space? And SpaceX
why haven't we been to the moon again?
Well, but forget the moon. No one wants to go to the moon. That's why we haven't been to the moon. But
there's really nothing there.
It's desolate. I mean, it's worse than a Karoo.
There's not even a cat turd.
Yeah, horrific. But the thing is all these people have ended up. So NASA doesn't pay as much as SpaceX, and it's not as exciting as SpaceX. So people move to that. It's the same as the consulting agency. So now you have these consulting firms who are also filled with a lot of morons. Don't get me wrong.
Of course, we know because they were actually the morons who started a lot of our corrupt activity in this country.
But now everyone defaults to them for advice,
right?
But
because primarily they also don't trust themselves in this country.
Yeah, everywhere.
I think here it's bigger than anywhere else because we've got a major problem with people who are just indecisive. They've been given jobs that they can't handle. And then they look at the consultant and they go, well, they probably know because they work for a big consulting company.
Yeah, well, that. And also it's a combination of brains. So, when you get the consulting company in, you've got like 10 people sitting around a desk with the problem. But it's
groupthink.
But that's essentially where all your leaders have gone. They've gone into the corporate world, which is kind of why you have this sort of alliance between government and corporate now. That's essentially what's going on in the world. The real fascist globe that we have, which by the original definition of fascism was a combination of government working with the private sector to subjugate the individual. That's basically what's going on. That's
it. The ugliest combination of all, right? Is like a combination of people who mean to do well.
Yeah.
People who actually genuinely believe they can make a utopia. Those people are very dangerous. They're the most dangerous of all. And then throw in a little economic incentive and suddenly it goes tits up.
Well, the other side of the utopian people is also the people who go, there are no trade-offs. So the other day I saw a well-known journalist said something like they want to remove the scrubber from one of the towers in one of the Eskom power plants. And obviously the scrubber is what makes coal pretty clean energy these days, certainly in comparison to coal from half a century ago.
Yeah.
And but if they remove the scrubber because it's stopping them from producing power at the moment, they'll create an extra 2,000 megawatts. So we lose a stage of load shedding or something. But experts have said that 627 people will die. Is it worth it?
Oh, and they've actually worked out exactly the number of people who will die if we remove the scrubber.
And it's down. It's not like 630. And
all those people in Witbank and Middelburg.
No, they probably are. And what is Kukuza or something?
Because the water there is already undrinkable.
Have you seen the air? It's
disgusting, dude. I mean, that whole part of Mpumalanga, it just should be condemned. It's Mordor, basically. It's Mordor. If you go there, you see these burning towers with like flames shooting out of the top, like the Eye of Sauron, and the air is thick and unbreathable, and it's also a bit stinky. It's like got
that sulfuric acid,
sulfur. Yeah, it's horrendous stuff. So you're telling me someone proposed this in order to take us to a better state. Now, this is where I become
this is why Greta can correctly say we can end load shedding by the end of the year, because we can end load shedding if we wanted to.
But at what cost?
So that's the whole point. It's like, well, at what cost, and how much anger to our EU allies who are giving us money to go green, right? Yeah. If we said, screw you, we're not going green, we've got shitloads of coal.
Sure.
We're going to do what Germany and China have been doing, and we're going to burn the coal.
Yeah.
If we're even smarter and said we've got shitloads of gas underneath the Karoo, we're going to frack the hell out of that.
You want to frack that? We're going to restart Thunberg and go
and nuclear. We're going to let Shell kill a few whales off the coast
and dig up
West Cape coast and drill oil. We'd be an oil-rich country. I mean, we're talking sovereign wealth fund kind of stuff.
Yeah. God, don't say that too loud. The ANC will get very excited.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the whole point. The whole point is that they know this, and we honestly should stop doing this whole. But the ANC is corrupt. They'll steal. Yes, they'll steal it. They can't steal all of that, and even if they do, where does the ANC spend their money?
Yeah.
Where? Yeah. Right.
So
when they go buy their expensive car, who sells it to them?
None of them.
Who cleans the showroom floor, guys?
I've often said, that's exactly right. I've often said that one of the best things about corruption in this country, if there are best things, and I'm a silver lining kind of guy.
Silver lining kind of guy, Gareth.
Is that these guys who steal in this country, tenderpreneurs, ANC-linked comrades, government ministers and their families, all those connected elites in South Africa. The great thing about them is they buy consumable shit here.
They're proudly South African.
None of them are clever enough to open up an
offshore account.
A Swiss bank account.
No. If you're in Angola, the Angolan presidential family, basically.
The
Which
Dos Santoses or whatever
100%.
Yeah.
The problem with them is, I don't know if you've ever been to Angola, but it is literally what Donald Trump describes as a shithole.
Yeah, it's
I
terrible.
cannot explain to you.
It
You
is-
fly into it and there's dust, right? And then you go over the city and it's just dust. It's
But Luanda is one of the most expensive places in the world to live because you cannot get anything.
Yes.
And everything that you can get is like the inflation is sky high because everyone's on the take.
The Holiday Inn there is 25,000 rand a night. It's just like
and trust me, no one goes, let's go on holiday to Luanda.
Yes.
Said nobody ever.
But the people who make money there don't spend it there.
No.
Right. So the corruption is even more damaging. And the problem, the thing is like
Jonathan's busy saying, everybody, that you should be grateful for the corruption.
Be happy that the ANC is corrupt at home.
Yes, they corrupt at home. They spend here. You're not going to stop their corruption. I mean, let's be honest. Let's just be honest about this. And the reality is you can either be terrified of their corruption and stop progress, or you can say, well, we've got all this gas, we've got all this oil, we could be oil rich. And we could end up, the social grants would be nothing. We could turn around and go, in the next 30 years, we want everyone to end up with a master's degree. And we could afford that if we were willing to drill and frack and do these things. You know, a gas turbines, you can build a 2,000 megawatt gas turbines in about 18 months. You can turn on a gas turbine from 0 to full power in about 30 minutes. We could end load shedding in the next 18 months completely. Forever. We just don't have the will to do it. And part of it is the government and corruption, sure, but a lot of it is external forces turning around and
telling
saying,
us what to do.
We can't do that. It'll mess up the beauty.
And the irony is that the very people who used to say, oh, we don't want foreign countries, and especially not like the West, telling us what to do. These are the people with their hands out taking that money.
Exactly.
Yes, sure.
They're the ones begging for that money.
We
Cyril is the beggar king.
We should not take these people seriously when they say, oh, this is a new form of colonialism. Because if China offered them more, they'd go with that.
I once proposed this, right? I once did a speech in class in grade 9 where I called it, I think my teacher ended up calling it ruthless pragmatism. So I said, you know how you would fix this country? Just cut out free healthcare. Let the people die. That solves.
That is vicious.
That is vicious. It's ruthless. But
Nazi.
No. But hear me out.
2.0.
No. But hear me out. Let's go back to natural selection.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we spending in? We're feeding people by giving them social grants. We're giving them free meds to stay alive, and then we give them food, we give them housing, we give them basic education.
I just want to get on my knees and thank our Lord Jesus Christ that you're not the president.
So just cut out free healthcare, let them die. And then we also, what do we have? An overpopulation problem. The poor will die, and then we'll okay. What's the end result?
You know why this is a very bad plan?
Yeah.
For the same reason that the Democrats love having an open southern border.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason they do that is for cheap labor.
For cheap labor. Exactly.
Right. And the reality is you can hate the poor as much as you like, but they are very, very important. Yeah. And in this country, they are massively the workforce. And in fact, you know, this country, one of the problems we have is that we have to, at some point, raise the lower class up into the middle class. But that's a very difficult thing to do because you obviously have to increase wages, which makes the middle class that currently exists, makes their
taxes
well, everything for them becomes more expensive.
And also makes it the businesses, it's unattractive if you have an expensive labor force.
You don't want to kill off the lower classes.
Let me just in Bakh'abantu's defense, and again, I'm being very careful here. I mean, AI would suggest probably the same thing. A pure logical path to solving the problem is probably something like that, but it is completely unacceptable.
No, it's
from a humanitarian
point of view. It is ruthless.
But Bill Gates just called and he wants you to come and meet with him.
Yeah, he'd love that.
Well, he did kill the people with the nets, the malaria nets.
And the polio vaccines.
And the polio vaccines that he sent through. So Bill Gates is a mass murderer.
So let's just get back on the track that you were on here. So you could actually solve a whole lot of our problems, including our fiscal problems, if we just told the EU and the US, you know what, we're not going green. We've just decided this is not a good idea.
Really care as much. You know, the US kind of sort of is buying into the EU principle, and then the EU is kind of pushing that on.
Who are the people that are pushing this the hardest?
It seems to it does seem to be some American. Certainly, it's some American liberals. You know, you talk about foreign interference. I mean, there's tons of foreign interference.
No, of course there is. But who are the people who are pushing this obsessive, insane, wild, and they're putting it at the top of every agenda? I heard that Joe Biden met with King Charles yesterday, and all they talked about was climate change.
Yeah, because King Charles, that's apparently all he knows.
That's his bugbear. But it's also, I mean, it's something that they both feel safe talking about when there are actual world problems they could be discussing.
But let's reel it back in, Gareth. You mentioned a name here, Greta Thunberg.
She's not in charge of the world.
No, she's not in charge of the world, though. But like, look at how high regard she's held it. She spoke at the UN. She spoke to world leaders in pigtails and told them how dare they.
But she's a PR campaign ambassador.
Yeah, she's a PR campaign, but that's the PR. That's what's running the country.
So you reckon Greta Thunberg is the real power?
No, I'm saying people like her.
I just want to put this on record. Bakh'abantu saying that Greta Thunberg is the actual.
I'm saying these crazy liberals, like Greta Thunberg is the lizard person controlling everything.
She may be. Maybe you're right.
No, I'm saying
one day people will say, the first guy to pick up on this was that dude.
Well, I did call the world was ending and it snowed yesterday.
She's the real OG.
But like what I'm saying is it's people that are virtue signaling like Greta Thunberg, people that have influence in spheres of influence with Western influence and that think.
So who, if it's not her, then who put her on the stage? Who are the people?
That's the question.
Who are the people who are telling us that we have to do shit that is against our interests?
Who are the people making us use plastic straws? Why is Cyril obsessed about going green? Oh wait, I don't know if you saw.
Do you know? I know you spoke about the plastic straw thing, but you know how that started.
Yeah.
You know the origin of that.
Mm-hmm.
The origin of that is I think he was a 6th or 7th or 8th grader. It doesn't really matter. It's like a 10-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid in the US in California. Did a school project because he went to the San Francisco Bay one weekend and he saw a turtle in the bay with a straw up its nose. And he took a video and pictures and whatever of this. And then he made a school project about it because at school they were doing something about sustainability or the environment and that kind of stuff. And he made a school project. And his project ultimately won some sort of county prize and then some state prize. And then the Democrats sort of hopped onto this. Plastic straws are evil.
Exactly.
Okay. And suddenly plastic straws are evil became a California policy. And then the California policy became a US policy. And then the US policy became a global policy. So nobody at Mug and Bean knows why the fuck they give you a paper straw
that melts in your drink.
Right?
Exactly.
Like I actively avoid places that give you paper straws. Yeah. But the point is nobody knows actually why that happened. So they think they did something for the environment, but it's complete bullshit.
So back to my point, Greta Thunberg, the 10-year-old who's running the country.
But there's a lesson in this. Kids, do your science projects well, and you could change world policy unwittingly. I mean, everybody.
But most of the stuff is uninformed. I mean, you started global warming. I love
this. No. I love the fact this is actually a very inspiring story that you just told me. I know it irritates
you. You can change the world.
I know it irritates you too, but I think this is beautiful. Like some kid in San Francisco who was doing
the world.
I think that's amazing. And you can only do it in 2023. This is the time to do these things because everyone's interconnected and you've got these social media sites and you've got these ways of sharing information and promulgating information like never before. If you ever thought you didn't matter, ladies and gentlemen, then stop that immediately because here's the proof.
I like positive Gareth.
Yes,
indeed. I like positive Gareth.
Change the world. For the worse, but you can change
the world.
You can make it horrible for people who just want to have a smoothie.
Yeah,
you can. You can make someone's iced coffee experience intolerable.
And let's be honest, right? What irritates you more, paper straws or carbon taxes?
Both.
But you don't notice the carbon taxes. No, the paper straws irritate you more.
But we've had a guy who came in through the show who explained why the petrol price is high. It's mostly tax and nonsense because the barrel doesn't change. The barrel of oil and the process of oil doesn't change. That does fluctuate, yes. But we are paying for RAF. We're paying for these taxes that are just added on. And we're also paying for the carbon tax that Cyril is propagating because he gets his orders from the US and the West. And Greta Thunberg.
You're on a Greta Thunberg.
You're banging a drum. Hey, this morning you've got a single like watchword, and it is Greta Thunberg. You are like onto her.
Yeah.
How dare she?
Really?
Yeah.
All right. We got a lot to talk about. I do want to get to Holland because that's on the agenda. I want to talk a little bit about Trump making shocking comments about Ivanka. This is according to an ex-staffer at the White House.
God, I'm so. Oh, did he grab the wheel of the beast again?
You know, the more they hype up what a terrible person Donald Trump is, and the more you actually compare it to just about everyone else in politics in the US at the moment, the more brilliant he looks. I hate to say it because I'm actually not thrilled.
It's
about
not even
the fact
that. People
he's
root for the
running
underdog. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
a whole part of this is people are just going, well, they hate him, so there must be something to like about him.
again. Right. Well, because also we the minute the media tell us something, we immediately think the opposite is true.
Well,
Because
smart people,
The
yes.
credibility has been completely inverted.
Yes.
South Africans yesterday were going
Ape shit.
about the snow. There was not a single. So you posted a very cool video from the hospital, I think,
Yeah.
of the whole of Joburg kind of gray, misted out, but you could see there was actual snow. There were some beautiful videos of places where there were layers of it on the ground
Mm.
in Johannesburg.
I have a video up like.
But you made a little snowman.
GQ.
You
I
made
made a
a
little snowman.
shitty little snowman, but you made one.
Well, it's South Africa. It's not the best snow.
No, sure. Your snowman was about the size of, I don't know,
10 centimeters
a
tall.
midget's hand. But there we go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does happen relatively often, you know, in context. It snowed apparently what's been considered proper snow 4 times in the last sort of 80 years.
That's not a lot.
Well, I know it's not a lot, but we have
80
such
years, that's
short
one lifetime.
we have such short memories because you know I'm sure some people will say, look at the snow, you see the climate is changing, but it snowed in 1964, you know, and it's like, okay, cool, so how much is it changing? And then I got told by some people, well, it's just weather isn't climate. But next time there's a hurricane, they'll say this is climate.
I'm interviewing a guy this afternoon called Tim Urban.
Yes.
He's written a fantastic book about how really shitty we are at understanding what's going on around us. And he does this interesting thing where he says the story of humanity is 1,000 pages long. We're currently on page 1,000. And the whole of human history is all in the bottom line of this huge cube of each day being a page, right? And the fact that you talk about the 60s, people think, oh, well, that's ancient history. But it's a nanosecond in world time.
But we don't have a memory.
No, we don't. We're useless.
We don't have
at
a
this.
memory. In 5 years' time, they're going to tell you there's a virus, it's killing everyone, and you're going to stay at home, you're going to wear a mask, and you're going to avoid your grandmother.
Not
like,
fucking me.
well, you never did, and neither did I. But like, let's be honest, we were the minority.
Just a reminder, this is Dr. Witt.
Yeah, right,
MD.
exactly. Yeah, it is. So anyway, South Africans being warned to keep warm as a cold front sweeps across most of the country. No major disruptions have been caused by snowfall at this stage, said a spokesperson for the South African Weather Service. And cold weather conditions expected to continue through the week. Yippee. So if you were planning I don't know, you were going to go for a swim or something like that.
Well, Ben is probably happy wherever he is.
It turns out it's winter in the Southern Hemisphere.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
like,
surprise,
it's cold.
surprise. Yeah.
Surprise, winter is cold.
Yeah. Water is wet.
You know, South Africans also, we're so unprepared for the cold because this is a warm country.
Yes,
And-
very much.
And, you know, when the sun comes out, even yesterday, the sun came out for a little bit of the day and suddenly it was fine. Suddenly we were like, oh, this is not so bad. That doesn't happen in the Northern Hemisphere. When it's cold, it's ice all day. There's no sun. It's shitty the whole of winter. And that's sometimes 3, 4, 5 months at a time.
Yeah, this is why they're
depending on
all
where you are.
depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
So
on
let's
drugs.
be grateful about the fact that we don't know how to deal with this stuff. And Stebu says we get snow every year in Kwakwa in the Free State. Yeah, but the Free State. Did you watch the? So I watched the weather last night, which I never do, just because I thought, oh well, it's an interesting day to watch the weather. If you're gonna do that, then let it be today. The Free State is miserable. I always talk about this because I cannot believe that in the middle of South Africa, there's this province that just suffers the most insane bouts of freezing, bone-chilling, ass-paralyzing cold that is imaginable.
And the most extreme,
Oh my God.
extreme paralyzing heat.
Dude, we talked about how
It's dry, flat, and
your province, the
Yeah.
Eastern Cape, which is just a shit show, that place is obviously you get snow there, and you've got certain places that are very cold, and you've got those, it's just dirty and badly run, and all those.
But we have a coastline.
You have a coastline, but the Free State, there's no relief.
There's nothing
There's
there.
nothing you can do. That cold just gets into you. There's absolutely no relief from it. It's terrible. So, all right, I feel sorry. All I'm going to say this morning is, if you're going to complain about the cold and you're not in the Free State, just shut up. Nobody wants to know. All right. Can we leave it at that for the moment?
If you chose to live there, it's your problem.
Yeah, we'll get to some news headlines in just a short while, but it is time for the window seat with travel.co.za. So this is our chance to talk about something which I'm sure you will love and which you would be thinking about right now: travel to Thailand. Wouldn't you rather be in Thailand than here in this cold? Damn right you would. So Carol Peterson and Tracy van der Berg are on the line, and they're both sitting in the office now. But Tracy, you just got back, right?
Hello. Yes, I did, Gareth. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And Thursday.
How many times have you been there? And Carol, how many times have you been there?
I've been there twice. That's my first visit.
Oh, okay. So you two are not like these tried and tested Thailand travelers. There's a lot of teas in that.
Not yet, but we may go back.
They are tried and tested Thailand travelers from Tourvest Travel Services. How's that? There's a lot of teas.
Alliteration.
That is what you call an alliteration thunderbomb. All right. So listen, ladies, let's just talk a little bit. I'm going to explain who you are and what you guys do. Carol has been with Tourvest for 20 years, started her career as a travel and junior consultant, worked her way up. She now loves tequila, travel, and horses. What a good combination. I got to say, these are my people, and I'm thrilled to have you both on here. Carol's visited more than 42 countries and is planning to visit many more. So if anyone's going to tell you about where to go, it's her. And Tracy has been with Tourvest Travel Services for 13 years, and she's been on the creative side doing events, all kinds of things. She does incentives. She puts together the best dinner parties. And I've been to a couple of the events that she's done. They're all superb. Tracy also wrote and co-produced a family musical that won a Naledi Award in 2011. You're full of surprises, huh?
I am.
Yeah, look at you.
A little bit of a dark horse.
So, ladies, one of the things that South Africans are very concerned about at the moment, and we touched on this in the last window seat episode, was that there are very few countries we can go to where our currency is actually still good, or where we can score. I mean, I popped into Turkey again, and the rand is now 1 rand to 1.3 Turkish lira, which is not a bad exchange rate for us. It's one of the few places that it works in our favor. But is Thailand still affordable?
Very much so. Very much so. Look, alcohol everywhere. Irrespective of where you go, alcohol is.
I love the way you went. You went straight to alcohol first. You really do know. You know travel and you know South Africans. Carry on.
And your audience.
Yeah, exactly. So stay away from the tequila as long as possible when you're traveling. But
okay.
Thailand is pretty much half. So it really is affordable. So half to the rand. So to give an idea, if you're buying a beer in baht, it's 300 baht. So, 100 baht, so 50 rand. So that's not too bad, you know. And obviously, from accommodation and that sort of thing, it's quite affordable.
And who doesn't want to have a cocktail while lying on the beach, Gareth? I mean, really.
No, I'm not going to go and teetotal now, but I do think that alcohol is a consideration for many people. What about the best time to go? Because we're busy sitting here in the coldest Joburg possible, and people are wondering, like, is this actually a good time to be in Thailand? I think any time is a good time to be in Thailand, right?
Well, I think there's 3 climates in Thailand. It's hot, hottest, and hotter and hottest. So I think you got to just consider the rain. So you can go to Thailand now. It's nice and warm and humid, but you might encounter some thunderstorms and tropical storms. I think Trace knows all about that.
I did.
So probably like November to Feb is a little bit better in terms of your rainy season.
And Tracy, did you encounter some of that monsoon type weather?
Yeah, we did. And I can tell you we took a boat trip from Phuket to PP Islands, which was awesome. PP Islands was awesome, but I thought I was going to die on that boat trip. PP.
Sure.
Let's not go there. It's early.
Yeah. In fact, Bakh'abantu saw the words PP and he thought it was Xhosa and like immediately got concerned.
Yeah, I was like, hey, what are we going to talk about?
So have you guys been to Thailand? Either of you?
No.
I have never been past the borders of South Africa.
Okay, well, I haven't either, so we're all novices to this. All right, now I hear a lot of things about the nightlife in Phuket. I believe there's a very, very interesting place called Bangla Road.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a scary thing, I must say. So I traveled with my two girls, and you have to experience certain things. There are just some things you have to do when you travel to a different country. If you go to the Netherlands, you want to visit the red light district, maybe not with your kids, but you want to have a look. But so we did. We ended up at a bar where there was live music, and right across from this bar was a strip club. And so my kids were kind of like not sure where they need to look. And then when you get into Bangla Road, literally they are shoving pamphlets in your face, but it's sex shows, it's
oh my God,
glow in the dark sex toys.
Is this where like the ping pong? That's what I've heard. You come see ping pong, and then you go in there, and then these women can shoot. They can shoot a ping pong ball out of one of their orifices, and it can actually they can aim it at a cup, and it lands in the cup.
100%, and it's more than just ping pongs. I can assure you.
Yeah, so I've heard somebody shot a budgie out there.
Oh my God.
They shoot darts and balloons and
yeah.
But
so
how
it's a scary road.
Yeah, but as Jonathan says, but how are the beaches? Let's get out of Bangla Road. Let's go back to the beaches.
Yeah, the beaches are great. So
I think Kiki Island, is absolutely beautiful. The beaches are lovely, and if you had to take a boat trip not far from there, you go to Nyaope Bay, which is where the beach was filmed. So
yes,
you all know what the beach looks like. It was absolutely beautiful, and they have cleaned it up. I've been there before, and in that bay there were boats and everything in there and rubbish, but they've actually moved the boats to the other side of the island. They've cleaned up the rubbish. It's absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, you can't swim there, but you can enjoy the beach and the beautiful views at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tracy, just to jump in here, I know they speak Tagalog there, but they're a Christian country, so they're good at English, right? So I'm not gonna go there. So I'm not gonna go there and not be able to communicate.
Good point.
Just bow. That's all. That's cool with you. Just bow.
Yeah.
And they're lovely.
Apparently the friendliest people, and just really happy to do anything that you need in terms of if you want this kind of pillow or ping pong, you want this kind of pillow, or you like your room colder or warmer. They can do everything for you, and they do. They're like service oriented in another way, right?
Yeah, they're fantastic. Really, really the nicest people I've met. As you know, I'm quite a Turkey fan, but I enjoyed Thailand. I enjoyed the people. They were great. The food is fantastic.
I was going to ask about the food.
Food is fantastic.
Yeah, in South Africa there are a couple of Thai restaurants, and I've always thought they were pretty good. Is the general overall quality amazing, and what sort of stuff are they famous for?
Well, obviously the fried rice. It's very, very much what you can find in an Asian restaurant in South Africa. But
Thai green curry and all of that.
Thai green curry, red curry. I would.
Nice.
I stayed away from the street food, the proper street food.
I was going to ask. I've heard you can just walk down the street and they'll kind of set up on the side of the road.
Yeah, they are. But scary looking. That's kind of the ones you want to avoid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Donna says my son just went to Thailand earlier this year and they loved it. Yeah, I've never heard anybody who said that they went there and they hated it.
Except the people who got caught with heroin in their bags on the way back.
Not
big fans.
You don't want to get in trouble with the law. Apparently, that's a very bad idea.
Just stay away from the hard stuff.
Yeah. So on that note, what should you do when you're there, and what should you not do?
Well, look, what I found quite strange is Thailand. Obviously, a lot of things go there. If you look at Bangla Road, they're very open-minded with certain things, but they have this boundary. So don't go beyond that. So Bangla Road, you can do whatever you want to, anything goes. But outside of that, they're a little bit more, not, I wouldn't say strict, but they have their rules and they have their boundaries. Big no-no is obviously going to the temples with skimpy shirts or little hot pants, or, just wear clothes, cover your shoulders. So that's a big thing. Taking off your shoes in some of the places, not restaurants and stuff like that, but some, not your global hotels, but your little, boutique hotels and like the one I stayed in PP. Before you go into your room, you take your shoes off. It's just a bit of a respect thing to respect their culture. So those are the main ones.
Yeah, respectful, I think, is the main thing. So just be respectful of everything, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right. So Carol, and when you were there, were you with a group of people, or was it just a little family outing?
So I've been there twice. It was a family outing, and I've been there with a group of people, and we've had a great time. So you can have your family leisure type of time, or you can have an absolute joy.
So if you go with a huge crowd of people, is it the best place to have a wild party? Because I've heard about these full moon parties and things that they have there too.
Well, I didn't have any full moon parties, but the nightlife is great. You can really party. My dear friend next to me here was dancing on the bar.
Hey,
and her last
This is why we have you guys on, because we're not going to get some sanitized bullshit like tourism review.
To read between the lines there, when she went with her family, she went to the beaches, like Jonathan said, 100%. And then when she went with a group of friends, she did Bangladesh.
Love it. All right, very good. Someone says, stay away from the women of Thailand. That's the first thing you don't do there. Can't tell them apart. I think they mean the genders.
The lady boys.
No, you get lady boys.
Lady boys.
Okay.
You wouldn't know that they're actually men.
Well, I'm glad that you two ladies have been able to explain this to us, and I can trust it. We get straight to the stuff that people want to know. And if you want to find out more, go to travel.co.za. You can make your dream holiday a reality. Go and check them out. That's where you'll find all the information. They have everything that you need to know in one convenient place, travel.co.za. And you couldn't think of a better URL than that either. So if you're sitting there going, I want to get out of cold Joburg. What do I do? Well, obviously, travel.co.za. Thank you so much, Tracy, and thank you so much, Carol. Nice to see you both.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, there we go. So you're going to go to PP Island now? Are you still nervous?
Well, you need to take off your shoes and stuff. That's been weird now. We're taking off our shoes before.
Why, do you have very ugly feet?
Oh, no, I have beautiful feet, Gareth. Immaculate feet. That's how I get them ladies.
All right,
but he's in Sandton now. He's going to have nicer shoes. You see, of course. This is what it's all about.
I've moved up in the world.
He's going to stand in that queue to get into Louis Vuitton.
Very fancy. A couple of news stories I want to get to before we take a break. Eskom has announced new stages of power cuts. We were just talking with Jonathan about how we could solve all these energy problems. But I want to throw this in here because any excuse to blame anyone other than the people who are actually responsible, and now the cold has been blamed. And we knew this was going to happen, right? And like if there's a bit of wind, if someone drops a screwdriver,
it snowed yesterday. The coal must be wet now.
No, the coal must be frozen.
So power cuts have dropped drastically in recent weeks from 12 hours a day to around 2 hours a day. So we'll give credit where it's due. But the Minister, Josienso Ramakgopa Sputla, has given us an assurance that blackouts could soon be a thing of the past. However, they announced stage 4 power cuts until 5 a.m. Tuesday morning. So that should be over by now. But the utility says it's due to rising demand and a slight reduction in generation capacity because of the cold.
Well, okay, silver lining here. Glass half full. I think the ANC is actually doing a great job here. They're trying to teach us math. You know how much tracking you need to do to figure out how, like, at 5 a.m. it's going to be stage 3, then at 5:15 it's going to be stage 2, but only for this.
You're erroneously assuming that this is a planned, calculated thing. It's more like, let's make it 5. Let's make it 4. It's like, it's like when you used to go to those Greek cafes as a kid, and you'd say, how much for a chappie? How much you got?
Yeah, exactly. Or take change. No take chappies, no change.
No
take
change.
chappies.
Check
Yeah, exactly.
How many you want?
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is great.
Yeah.
They probably don't even know how many megawatts we need. It's just
they probably think like, okay, no.
It's a ballpark guess.
Well, we talked about ladyboys in Thailand, but we've got to talk about Miss Holland, We'll get to that in a similar vein just after 7 o'clock. There's plenty to discuss there. That's one of the things that Audrey's caught onto this already. The new Miss Netherlands can't tell her apart from the other ladies either.
Oh, but you can.
Oh,
but a huge but.
Yes.
No.
She has a huge butt.
No, I'm saying you can tell her apart. She's a dude. Oh.
All right. Well, there's no need for you to go straight for the jugular. We'll discuss this in a minute.
I kicked in the balls there, like went below the belt.
No, you went below the belt. That was not necessary.
There is a cacophony of jabberings at that corner. Please come to silence.
That corner.
Who's this guy? He should come into the studio with that wig.
He's the Speaker of the Botswana Parliament.
Oh, he won't come here then.
No. I don't think he has better things to do. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. All right, cliffcentral.com. It is Tuesday morning. It's just after 7 o'clock, and we got lots of things to do, to say, places to go, people to talk to, plenty of interesting stuff. Dr. Jonathan Witt, our surprise guest, and Bakh'abantu's in the studio, as he is on Tuesdays now. So we're changing it up and always keeping things, hopefully, moving in an interesting direction. Lots of things on the agenda this morning. I didn't know anything about Miss Holland, but apparently this is something that people are talking about, right? So what's the story? You guys tell me.
Well, Miss Holland, the new Miss Netherlands is...
Is this a picture of her? Hang on, it's...
yeah, there you go.
Is that her?
That's her.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, she's packing heat, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, she's carrying there, all right?
Hang on. You're telling me that's a man?
That is a man. Yes.
No. What's between her hips, Gareth?
Okay, she's hiding a bit of a package there. There's something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
unless she's got what do you call
Camel toe.
and that is quite a flattering photo of her.
Oh.
Yeah, there's I mean that's being.
Let me see if I can find a less
choosing her.
Let me see if I
that's
can find a
choosing her
less
best.
flattering
Is
one.
there one with like stubble, like 5 o'clock shadow?
No, I'm sure she's on tons of hormones, or he's on tons of hormones. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, they've made so now she will compete in Miss Universe.
Yeah.
And there's a very good chance that she'll win.
Why would they let her win?
A liberal agenda.
Oh, you mean because it's politically correct?
Because
it makes it
Greta
look like it's
Thunberg.
progressive.
Because Greta Thunberg, the leader of the world, will decide this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a trans woman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me try to find you the photo of.
No, I've got a good one here.
Have you got a photo of the whole lineup though? Because there was a woman who was far more beautiful.
Okay, but here, so first of all, let's just remind ourselves of what it all looked like in the 80s. All right, when men and women were women. Here's a picture of how things used to look. You're not really sure if those are women either. From the 80s, but here we go. This is a picture of, there's Miss Holland.
Look at how tall she is. Come on. Look at those shoulders.
It's the hands. You got to look at the hands. Check those fingers coming around that
The hands thing is a very touchy subject. It's mind the pipe.
No matter what transgender people do, they cannot sort out the hand problem.
Remember Barack's wife? The hand thing is a problem. Michelle Obama.
Big Mike, please.
She had big hands.
Proper name, thank you.
Big Mike.
Big Mike.
Michelle Obama. She had proper big hands.
Big Mike. Catches a basketball with one hand.
And Barack is there shooting with 2 hands.
My sister is convinced that this bit, she tells everybody, people who don't even want to have this conversation, she walks up to them and goes, she was Michael Obama, right? Michelle's not a woman. And I say to her, please stop doing this to people, because she goes up to people I don't even know, at like family events. Funniest thing is, like, most people go, no, man, that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah.
My one uncle, she walks up and she goes, hey, you know that Michelle Obama, she's not a man. He goes, oh, yeah, I know that.
We know this, Big Mike. We know this.
You guys, this is blasphemy. I mean, you can't be saying this. She could be the next presidential candidate for the Democrats. She's the only one with a chance.
No,
she
should have been
before Biden. She should have been before Biden, because they had heat there. They could have carried it.
Like Ms. Holland.
I saw someone produced an AI photo of her pregnant though.
Yes, that was very pretty.
Yeah,
she looks great. I mean, listen, AI can do wonderful things. It can
make photos that didn't exist.
I remember how Means just reminded me, there was a Seinfeld episode where Jerry dated a woman with man hands.
Yes.
I remember how funny that was, because ever since that Seinfeld episode, I've always looked at a woman's hands.
Yes, yeah.
I've always paid very careful attention.
So I think this is the way. Everyone's saying look for the Adam's apple, but I think this is the way.
They can cut it.
That's what I'm saying. You can't sort out the hands.
Right.
So this is the way. This is the new way to spot.
Oh wait, let's go scientific, Doug. What is a man?
An adult grown male.
Yeah, what is the difference between
an adult human?
Yeah, like what is the difference between male and female?
With XY chromosome.
Exactly, like a table or a kid. Okay, do you identify as a man, Gareth? Yeah. Do you identify as a man, Mr. Witt?
At the moment.
Could
change.
Could change
Depends
tomorrow.
on what. Have you got a promotion lined up for me that I need to?
Yes, exactly.
So what is the difference between male and female?
Can I just point out, like, Bakh'abantu's got a bunch of shit on the table in front of him here. There are 3 different vessels with different things in them. Let's just have a look at what's going on over here. I'm going to zoom out. So you just move your laptop there. So, okay, we've got a can of energy drink first thing in the morning.
Only someone under the age of 30 can do.
What's in the flask?
The flask is rooibos and honey.
And then what's in it?
And then this is caffeine, coffee.
Jesus, you're having all 3 of those in one.
Yeah, you need to balance it.
What is the logic of that?
Okay, so the logic behind
it's called a caffeine override. That's what that
okay,
is.
So I like the taste of coffee. So black, no sugar, no milk. I don't do bad stuff like milk and sugar.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's at least a plus.
Okay. So then this is rooibos. It usually doesn't have sugar. Just like the taste of rooibos.
How much rooibos do you drink every day?
just one
a liter.
All right. No. Too much is bad for you.
Yeah, too much is bad for you. But like, yeah, this is with honey because my voice is kind of breaking. I was from the Eastern Cape, and then this is just for the boost.
Okay, well, at least you're all
I don't
right.
drink bad stuff like sugar and milk, but you know, the stuff
The
bottled in
poisonous.
a factory to give me more energy, inverted commas, that doesn't come straight from a cow. That stuff I guzzle that down. at 7
No.
a.m.
My people were evolutionary, not supposed to drink milk. You guys are supposed to drink milk.
Listen, Big Mike. Wind it in.
So I lost my train of thought. But like what I was going at, the definition of a male and a female.
Your people were goat herders. What are you talking about?
But we didn't milk them. We didn't milk
cow
them.
herders. And
Yeah, we herded the cows, but we didn't milk them. We
Of
didn't do
course
funny
you
stuff.
milked
Of course, people milk the goats.
No, Europeans milked the
What do you
goats.
think? Listen, there were a bunch of different things that were made that they used to make in those pots that involved milk. What do you think? Where do you think that came from?
Name one.
Well, I mean, for starters, I know that the Zulus used to make umqombothi.
Yeah, there's no milk in Gombot.
They don't put milk in there?
No. Fact.
Yeah, I don't know enough to argue on this, but I can't imagine that
I'm
they
telling
didn't
you.
ever look at a
I'm
cow
telling you.
and be like,
Ubisi.
You guys.
Ubisi. Are you joking?
Ubisi came with the white man.
Please.
Facts.
I don't believe it for a second. So you just avoided milk?
We just avoided milk.
You
We
weren't
just-
at all curious about that stuff that came out of the tits?
You see now that's white man thinking right there. You see that's up here in Europe. You guys were cold. You guys were bored.
I don't believe it. I'm pretty sure that there were a bunch of people who would have tried that stuff.
yeah, so do I.
I'm not buying it at all.
No. We'll bring evidence.
Your
right there.
blanket colonialist opinion just doesn't seem to wash here.
Talking about transgender beauty queens, have you seen the people? Sorry, I need to get it back
Hell
to
of a
this.
thing to go to.
Well, because there's chest feeding going on. Have you seen this?
What's
this
chest feeding now?
Well, these are transgender women, so they're men pretending to be women,
Mhm.
who
Identifying.
take enough hormones to cause them to lactate, not actually properly like a woman would,
And they give that
and
to
then
children?
try to give it to kids. And
What is so upsetting about that is that someone's desire to fulfill a fantasy in their head
yes,
trumps a child's actual need for
It's
serious
actually
nutrition.
Yeah,
I mean,
damaging.
who knows what horrible stuff is involved in what comes out of a man's titty. But,
Yeah.
but for a child to be subjected to that's what I consider it's a kind of abuse.
yeah, it's a kind
There's
of
no
abuse.
two ways about that.
And it is a fantasy,
Sorry.
and in some instances it's like sexual fantasy, because the one that went kind of viral on social media a few years ago was talking about nipple clamps and all this kind of stuff. So obviously he's into that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, but the CDC has released a whole memo about the males chest feeding.
It's just unbelievable. This is the CDC who we're supposed to trust on things like COVID, but they can't seem to get their story straight about whether or not.
Yeah, I mean, does anyone trust them anymore?
But like a country, like speaking about children and
Let me
like
tell you
child
something.
abuse.
Anytime I see a man lactating, I know there's a big problem there.
Yes, absolutely.
A country that did it right was what? I think it was Italy when they passed that law that if you're a vegan, your child has to eat meat, and then at 16 they will choose to be a vegan life or not, because they need that nutrition from meat. The country decided that for the people, because these vegan people, and they had a problem with children not getting enough nutrients.
I mean, we can talk about certain things, Bakh'abantu, but we can't talk about the vegans. I mean, you want an intifada in the
You
studio.
brought them up yesterday as well. I think you've got a bit of an issue with these people.
I have a lot. I
You
have a lot
don't
of
like
issues.
the vegans, huh?
I hate a lot of things, Gareth. I hate a lot of things.
You don't hate as many things as Bulelo.
Oh no one hates a lot of things as
No
Bulelo.
one. No one else. No one on earth. It's hilarious. If you want to listen to last Tuesday's show, you'll see what we mean. All right. So this poor woman that's run for Miss Holland, you guys don't approve. So we'll move swiftly along to that, or from that, because obviously this is something we can't solve. So I do like this. You must end up with a list of questions at the end of winter that just infuriate you as a doctor, because there's so many obvious things that people I do have to say this with all seriousness. It isn't enough for people to have the flu anymore. They have to have swine flu or bird flu. Or,
Yes.
What is the flu just not cool anymore? Because no one seems to just have flu. The other day I bumped into someone and they said, "Oh no, I've had the most terrible swine flu." So I said, "How do you know it was the swine flu?" Well, it was just worse than the flu. Is that
some
is that
people
a
are
diagnosis?
testing. Some people are testing for it now. You know, before COVID, in general, we did very few swabs. You know, stick a thing down your throat or up your nose.
Because it's thoroughly unpleasant.
Yeah, and it's highly unnecessary.
Yeah.
We've been getting respiratory viruses more commonly in winter for about 300 million years now.
Right.
Yeah, some people don't survive it, and most do, and we move on with life. And then COVID happened, and then everyone was sticking things up their nose and getting a diagnosis.
It did make some people feel very important. They felt like they were part of some international narrative.
Yes.
It gave people a sense of identity because they'd never been noticed before. And then suddenly in their neighborhood, they were the first person to get attention.
Special.
Right. But you know, if you're going to diagnose something, you diagnose things for a purpose. I mean, so, you know, if you diagnose cancer, you want to know you've got cancer so you can do something about it. It's the same as like, so COVID didn't really make sense because we were sick, we had flu, and then you went to the doctor and they were like, or to a lab, and they stuck something up your nose, and then they came back and said you've got COVID, and then you were like, now what must I change to what I was doing before I knew that information? No, nothing. Just stay at home.
Bizarre, right?
You know, so it's like there's not really a point in running a test on someone unless you're going to do something about the result of that test.
Exactly. So just to jump in there, Dr. Witt, in terms of COVID, I remember I used to hate the news. I used to infuriate me, like when they used to have the ticker, how many people have COVID, and then deaths. The deaths was like minuscule compared to how many people. Because if I test positive, what does it matter? Because if I don't have a comorbidity,
it would have mattered if they'd said, look, we really think it'd be a good idea if you test positive, or even if you're feeling a little bit sick, that you take vitamin D, and you take the following other drugs perhaps, or supplements, and we want you to behave in the following way. That would have been maybe useful. But if you're not going to do anything about it.
Again, I want to focus on the psychological side of this, because Roxanne rightly says COVID gave birth to new hypochondriacs.
Yeah. And in fact, I think COVID created an entire society of hypochondriacs. Like, I would say more people are hypochondriacs now than are not. Because now you get flu, and instead of people just doing what they did before, they freak out. And even people going to work, the number of certainly we've seen it, the number of people not coming to work when they have a bit of a sniffle now is like way more than it used to be. People used to go, I've got a bit of flu, and people used to, and you can argue that was irresponsible because you spread the flu, but part of actually, you could argue the other way. Being responsible with flu is actually spreading it, because you're going to get it eventually.
All right, well, let's take advantage. I mean, what do you want to check with the doctors? Anything you got going on at the moment that you're worried about?
No. It was just a funny question. So, Doug, have you ever run into Munchausen, a patient there in Baragwanath?
Explain what that is.
Munchausen. Well, so you get Munchausen, and you get Munchausen by proxy. It's a psych condition, so I haven't run into too much psych because I did very little of it.
He's busy putting people to sleep and making sure that their arm doesn't get blown off or any of that stuff. He's dealing with trauma.
We did psych. We did psych for a little bit, but we all do it in our training. But
so what is Munchausen's?
Essentially, it's faking illness, and Munchausen by proxy is faking illness, like in your kid.
So you're a mother
for attention.
You're a mother who says, "My child is ill." There's nothing wrong with the child.
Yes.
But what you do is you get the attention as the mother, and it makes you feel important. And this links.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So now move away from the hypochondriacs. Think about the Munchausen, and then now you think about
is it a fairly widespread condition? Is this something that happens often?
It doesn't happen.
It's quite rare, but I get where you're going, because you're saying, well, now we've got people getting attention. But I think also, like, it's because we live in an influence society and a society. Everyone wants likes on social media. So, and during COVID, I mean, how did you get likes during COVID? Well, you got likes by saying I'm sick. You got likes by saying I'm going to the hospital. I mean, there was a journalist I remember who sort of semi-faked being ill from COVID. And said that she was going to hospital for her COVID. and picked up a huge amount of following and a lot of obviously support from that. And then, of course, getting vaccinated was another one.
Yeah.
That's how you got a lot of likes. You know, you had to have that picture with that stupid frame. I've been vaccinated or something.
Yeah, I remember those. Some people still have them on.
No, I know. Some
And then you
people
get a
still
little
have the digital ones.
Yeah, and then you get a certificate,
Yeah.
and then you post that also.
So I think like swine flu was the common sort of flu virus this season, and everyone wanted to be able to say, I had swine flu.
I can say this now without any need of concern, because at the time, if you did say it, you know, it meant there were certain consequences, especially for you as a doctor. But I remember there was a point where you couldn't even express a non-mainstream opinion about any of this stuff. And I've got to say now, I'm having a lot of fun going back to the people who were telling me to shut up and stop spreading disinformation.
Yeah.
All those people who were like calling me a conspiracy theorist and saying you're being irresponsible. And I'm going back to everyone. I've made notes.
I told you so.
I'm going back to everyone saying to them, I want an apology.
Yeah.
I'm here at your front door and I want that apology, and I'm not leaving till I get it, because you were absolutely confirmed in every way to have been wrong. And I'm not going to let this go.
Are you winning yet? Because no one's apologizing.
No, well, people just they disown the fact that was their opinion. So they say to you, no, I wasn't that.
Or they
militant.
do things like, we didn't know at the time.
We didn't know at the time, like,
you know,
it was a
but it's like, how did I
situation.
know? Like,
it was an irrational situation, so we didn't know how to handle it. We were panicking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sons of bitches. I'm not going to take them seriously. All right, so
China must pay.
I cut my finger. Should I have got stitches for that?
No,
of course not.
Yeah.
See, a hypochondriac would have gone running straight to the hospital.
I mean, you can if you really want
I'll tell
to.
you, this is the same finger I cut.
Yes, you keep
this finger wants to die.
Or your brain wants to get rid of that finger. It's got like a thing against it.
My brain has got a problem with his finger. So I was making a soup on Friday.
You and cooking.
I'm telling you,
it's a bad thing.
I'm not meant to be in. There are a couple of lessons here. Number one, my brain hates this finger because it's always this one, always. I now have no feeling. And then there's now no sensation left in here. I could hold this over a candle like a leper for 3 days and I wouldn't feel a fucking thing. All right. I cut this side of it now, but the previous time I cut that side of it. So now it has absolutely no sensation at the end of it. I mean, I'm surprised it even works for like touching stuff. Did I touch that now? I can't even tell.
Yeah.
And I do think there's number one, the brain hates this, you're right. Number two, this finger has come in for a huge amount of abuse, and I think it deserves like a bit of a break. I'm going to start using the middle one more, so get ready for that. And third of all, I should stay away from cooking. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I'm no Gordon Ramsay.
Was that on a tin or what?
No, it was a cutting board.
Oh.
It's like, I don't know.
What do you do?
I don't know, but I'm not good at this stuff. I'm just not meant to be in the kitchen. I mean, I've got a laboratory.
You've got a laboratory and
dangerous
chemicals,
no.
and you have the steadiest hands in the world. But yet, when you get into the kitchen, what happens? You get flustered.
I had this conversation with my mother, of all people, the other day, because she was cooking something. And she was saying how she makes it. And I'm not really interested. And I said to her, it's interesting to me. Like, I think cooking is actually more complex than chemistry. Because you don't eat the chemicals after you've done an experiment. And people don't comment on like, well, there's a bit of caramelization going on there.
I disagree.
There's a bit of undissolved stuff left afterward. In chemistry, as long as you get the result that you were looking for or a different result that you weren't expecting, that's the end of the experiment.
I disagree. Cooking is more artsy fartsy. It's more improvisational.
Yeah,
but chemistry is a recipe. That's why you should be baking.
Yes, but that makes chemistry easier than cooking.
I think chemistry
there's a roadmap.
Chemistry is way
easier. There's a
easier
blueprint, as Dr. Hanan said.
Yeah, I think chemistry is way, way less complicated than cooking. And also the other thing about cooking is that everybody has a preferred taste. It's very subjective. Whereas chemistry is straight up objectivity. If there's a color change, it means
there's two hydrogens, there's an oxygen, it's water.
Something's happened. So I'm very responsible and careful in the laboratory. Thank God, because there's a lot of stuff that could kill me there. But you put me in the kitchen for 5 minutes.
And then you cut off your finger.
I want to cut off my finger. It's bizarre. Bled a lot, though.
Well, it's good. It's still got blood supply, so that's positive.
That's good. It's
also
not
necrotic.
That's what I wanted to say. It's all the words right off my mouth. It's not necrotic.
What's the grossest thing you've seen lately? Because we used to love bringing you on the show just to tell us about disgusting things that you've had to encounter as a doctor.
Something septic, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, necrotizing fasciitis is still up there, and obviously that in males usually it's, as I said, it's asshole and then scrotum.
Yeah.
And it kind of spreads over there.
Scrotum.
Yeah.
Scrotal necrotic fasciitis.
Something like that.
If I ever have that on a piece of paper, just shoot me in the head.
like imagine you walk into the office and they like, today you have 5 scrotal necrotic. That's your itinerary for the day.
You test for this stuff.
I test for this stuff. So we once ran into something, like speaking about like assholes, once ran into, so like we do LBC, right? Liquid-based cytology.
Yeah.
So these bunch of samples come in, we test them, we're looking for cancer, and then we see these abnormal cells and we can't explain them. Then it turns out the nurse forgot to tick the box that,
it's rectal.
It's rectal samples, right? But at the same time, these people presented as what? As female. So the nurse didn't know that they were males. So you see, it was medically important to know that they were males.
So what are you saying? That you should actually indicate your born gender?
Exactly. So let's go back, Miss Netherlands. Let's go back. What makes you male is not what you say. It's not what you feel. It's not what you wear. What makes you a male and a female is X and Y chromosomes.
Bakh'abantu and Dr. Witt, are you saying that if Miss Holland tells you her current perceived gender, her trans female status, and she puts female on her forms, that might result in an inaccurate diagnosis?
Yeah, this has already happened.
This
has happened in the US.
Yeah.
Where transgender males, so females, but pretending to be men, have presented to emergency departments with abdominal pain. And obviously the differential diagnosis for abdominal pain in females and males is vastly different. Because in males, it's essentially an appendix, or maybe it's a bowel obstruction or something to that effect. And in females, it's an entire reproductive system.
Yeah, exactly.
So plenty of stuff can go wrong. Uterus, fallopian tubes,
more complicated.
Ovaries.
Yeah.
So and you can, and they have this. There's a case, at least one that I'm aware of in the US, where they missed an ectopic pregnancy. In what they thought was a man,
and that can be deadly for the mother.
Yes. Yeah.
So I had a meme like this other week that I saw on Twitter where this doctor says, "Sir, I'm sorry to say you have prostate cancer." She's like, "No, I identify as a woman. It's ma'am." And then he's like, "Okay, sorry, ma'am, you have prostate cancer." But women don't get prostate cancer. That's medically significant. So Miss Netherlands, if you get prostate cancer while running for Miss Universe, you don't belong.
There you go. Dr. Robbins
says, "I've just had a patient with necrotizing fasciitis. I'm completely traumatized."
Yeah. Well, but she works in gynae. I mean, she shouldn't be traumatized. There's some nasty stuff that happens there as well.
Right.
When that area of the body goes wrong.
Elvis is making fun of me. Says Gareth cut his finger cooking rice. You don't need a knife when you're cutting rice, right?
You've been cutting rice wrong, Gareth.
Gareth, what have you been doing with rice?
I've been cutting my rice wrong. Damn it. I knew it.
Yeah.
Are you really stupid at any given thing? I mean, like, you're both smart people, but is there some area that you immediately abdicate responsibility to someone else when it comes to making any kind of decision around that stuff, because you have no interest or knowledge at all? Like, you're dumb about that, like I am about cooking. Is there something you're really useless at?
Yeah, like pretty technical DIY tasks I'm pretty useless. Like,
you can't do DIY?
Straightforward stuff I can do, but like as soon as it requires a little bit more technical
change a light
skill,
bulb, right?
Sure, change a light bulb and like
you change a
hammer
plug?
something in, and I can change a plug and I can do all that kind of stuff. Okay. But the minute it requires a little bit more technical skill,
I'm trying to figure out
if I had to hang a door on a hinge or something, I think
that's a tough job.
Yeah, not interested.
All right, how about
Beyond
you?
Me.
Anything that has to grow with plants. I know fuck all in the garden. Like, put me in a garden, everything will die. My mom has a green thumb. My granddad had green thumb. He was a farmer. When you put me there, I just don't know what to do. I remember my mom once said, "Tend the garden." It died, and then the second time she said that, I paid a guy to do it. I'm like,
Yeah, I think that, if you can acknowledge the things that you're really shitty at and get out of the way for other people to do it, you save yourself just a lifetime of trauma.
Why aren't journalists doing that?
Well, AI is paving the way for that.
So the reason I ask is because I know somebody who every year he does a new thing. He learns a new thing. And sometimes I think it's even 2 or 3 things. Like he'll learn a language, or he'll paint if he's never painted before, or he'll play an instrument that he's never played before. I mean, I think that's really, that keeps life interesting, right? But it's hard work.
Time consuming.
And as you add to things, you're bound to find something that excites you more. I mean, I'm kind of looking for something to excite me at the moment because I'm feeling a little bit meh about stuff. That's why I want the aliens to invade.
Exactly. Just buy a Porsche, Gareth. Midlife crisis. That's what it's called.
No.
Get yourself a 21-year-old little skimpy bimba.
So
get yourself a lady.
I got the sports car phase out of me in my 20s. I'm done with that. I rode off a few cars in the process, but it's done.
It's over.
So that's okay. I'm trying to think of.
And you got your no claim bonus back now.
I've got to find something that's like, I thought of this very seriously and then I dismissed it almost immediately, is the idea of going back to university to study a degree, because there's nothing about that would excite me. Also, what degree would I do?
Yeah,
that would really. There isn't one that I thought, well,
you can be a doctor of arts in what.
Nah.
I'll go get a PhD, and then you too can.
I think to study the humanities at a university at this stage of human existence, like all of that stuff's available on the internet anyway. What do you want a degree in humanities for?
But also, you probably wouldn't pass
to other people.
You wouldn't pass the course because they would start, and the first semester they'd be like, you'd be wanting to study history, for example, and they'd be like, write an essay on why Napoleon was genderqueer, and that would be like the topic.
Is that what they're doing at the moment?
That's they do weird shit like that.
Yeah, you see, I don't know.
Can you comment on this guy? Y'all are dumb about trans women. Ha ha ha.
Well, he's laughing, so at least
Alan says, "Yeah, you're dumb about trans women." But here's an interesting point from Chris. He says, "On this topic, I'm an attorney, so supposedly relatively smart." Wow.
No.
I know.
We're not sure, Chris.
I know a lot of attorneys, but I'm unable to blow bubbles with gum.
I also can't do that.
And blowing bubbles, being able to whistle. Some people can't click.
Some people can't whistle, and some people also don't. Yeah, they can't click. The other things, they can't roll their tongue.
Yeah, they can't do the U thing
like that.
Yeah,
some people can't do that.
My daughter can do a W with her tongue. We do not understand.
She's definitely going to grow up to be a lesbian.
Good for her.
How's fatherhood going? I mean, you're a couple of years in now.
Yeah, I'm well down the river.
It's going well?
It's still alive, so
it's still kicking. That's a good sign.
People get plants to see if they can have kids, but I think they should get kids before they get plants,
Well, yeah, some people go plant, then pet.
Yes, then kids.
Kid.
Yeah.
I'm still at the pet stage. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I often think that there was a window period between when my last dog died and I got the new puppy, that I did feel relatively free and unencumbered. And there are mornings where I wake up and I have to think about what to do with the dog and feed the dog and take it somewhere to be looked after while I'm away at work the whole day. And I sometimes think, I don't know about this dog.
But at least
I can admit that because the dog can't really understand.
He's not going to listen to the show.
You can't do that with a child.
Well, I mean, at the moment, the child couldn't understand if I said anything derogatory about it.
Well, I'll tell you something. A lot of parents say that in front of their children, and they're perfectly able to understand.
Some parents are. I actually know someone who's completely sarcastic to their kid. They'll be like,
strikes me as abusive.
It's just weird. She loves her kid, but completely sarcastic.
How? What are you doing in my life? I wish you weren't here. That kind of thing.
You guys should meet closer parents.
I'm thirsty, and then
are they like that? All of them.
I had a friend growing up. His first name, Mpazamo. The direct translation is mistake.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, that's awful. That is
literally.
Awful.
But we do have a lot of people with weird names on their birth certificates.
Yeah, I'm sure you see a lot of them in Paraguay. You see a lot of PhDs.
But mistake, mistake is one of them.
You've seen Mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am Bazamo. It was rough for him growing up.
Oh, here's something. Homotso wants to know, Doc, please explain transabled people.
Those are, I mean, this is out of my wheelhouse, but those are people who think that they're disabled, even though they're not.
But they sometimes will make themselves disabled. Like they will actually.
Well, they'll act it out. They usually don't actually do it. So, no, there is a pathology. There's a psych pathology around that where people, want their right arm cut off because they don't feel like it's part of their body.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's considered to be a complete psych problem. But if in today's day and age, if you want to cut off certain genitalia, then that's no problem.
But they'll still stop you from cutting off the arm.
No, they'll cut. Yeah, there was a doctor who's actually, I think it was in the UK in the 90s. It was like got into a lot of trouble for this kind of stuff, cutting off people's arms and legs and things that they didn't feel were part of their bodies. So yeah, it's considered highly
my body, my choice.
Well, Gareth wants to cut off his finger, apparently.
My brain wants rid of this fucking thing. I'm transabled. So there's your question.
Gareth is transabled. There you go.
But here's the answer to your question.
But you know what the worst thing is though, is when you do have an amputation and then you have a phantom limb. That must be terrifying. You feel like you have an itch, but you don't have a leg to itch. That's
I slept on my arm one night not so long ago, and I woke up and like it wouldn't move kind of thing for a little while. I thought, oh God, imagine being like one of those people whose arm doesn't work. You know how heavy that thing is when it's not alive?
Yeah, well, I mean, paralyzed people carry around their legs. Your legs are damn heavy. Yeah.
It's a hard job. Like there's this one guy who I've seen at the gym a couple of times. I just marvel at people like this. So he obviously is in a wheelchair, so he can't use his legs at all. He does all these arm exercises and things, and he really, he does some stuff which I can't even do. And I just marvel at this guy. I'm like, half of the body works. He's in there every week. He's doing the exercises. What the hell is wrong with able-bodied people, and include myself, who's sometimes lazy? I don't want to go to gym. I don't feel like doing this. That feels like too much of an effort. 20 kilograms. Why don't I just do 15? That kind of thing, I look at this guy and I'm inspired by that.
Yeah.
It's like I find, I have a lot of ire for fat people. I know you do too. But I will never be mean or rude to a fat person in the gym. I will never, ever point and go, fat person. I'm like, that person deserves respect and support, not like the ones who are not doing anything about it. I will never be rude about a fat person who's making an effort.
Exactly. No. The person who's trying, if they just take that walk a day, I'll respect you every day.
Like a bulimic, even if she just tries a little bit, just a tiny little morsel. I'm like, yes.
Well done.
See, now back to rewarding mediocrity. Finish your goddamn plate, woman.
You call that rewarding mediocrity? Jeez, you're hard to please. My God. So what's pissing you off at the moment?
Not much. I mean,
really? Ben and I joke a lot of the time because we talk to Dr. Witt. We've got like this WhatsApp group, and he can be a very grumpy
curmudgeon.
I actually think you've become more optimistic and positive in the last while things have got worse. I don't know how, it's like an inverse relationship that you have with the reality of the world, because I've found myself becoming a little bit less kind of optimistic. I'm still a very positive person.
Yeah.
But when I, drove down Grayston today, for example, there's, those barriers they put on the side of the road to prevent cars from falling into ditches, and rolling for a kilometer and killing whoever's inside, so that they end up in the trauma unit where Dr. Witt is. And the barrier, as you come off Grayston, is like sticking halfway into the road. Yeah. And then the one onto Catherine, the slipway there, is also a disaster. It's like it's been, I don't know.
Someone went into it on the one side and the other side now sticks into the road.
Yeah, so I look at this and it's been like that for months. And I know the city of Joburg probably have bigger priorities, because I don't know how many people have been killed since then on those particular problems.
I mean, they don't really seem to have priorities.
But it's like, if someone just fixed that, it would make me feel a little bit better about things in this city. But it won't be fixed for any time soon. And there's also like these barriers that have just been up for, I don't know,
but no,
10 years.
But no, Gareth,
since the World Cup, they've been fixing one of these streets, and nothing's happened since then.
It's because you don't pay your e-tolls.
It's my fault.
It's your fault.
It's your fault.
I'll take
Also, you don't support the Commission of Inquiries, because there is a Commission of Inquiry on why that barrier is like that.
Really?
Yeah, so you need to follow up on the
For the
Commission of Inquiry.
stakeholders.
Yeah, for the stakeholders.
I mean, I think things irritate me, but at the same time, is you have to kind of separate your ire at things and live your life as things are. I mean, you could get in this country, it's very easy to get just miserable and upset and then want to leave, which people do. And which you must do if that's how you feel.
Of course, but then you will end up with different problems.
Yes.
Like you're not going to go anywhere where there aren't going to be any problems. And I always marvel at these people too on social media who complain about having to work. They're like, I don't see why I have to work.
Generation Z.
Yeah, and I feel like saying to them, well, how else are you going to get the stuff that you want? Like your phone that you love so much, that you're always on, that you're commenting to the rest of the world on.
Not that you're saying this on.
You're complaining about how you have to work, but how do you think you're going to afford that 25,000 Rand iPhone?
Yeah.
Someone has to, those small children in the sweatshop in China have to be paid.
Universal basic income.
Yeah. Is that what
everyone else must just give it?
But we tried that during COVID and it seemingly did nothing
we
good.
We're
still doing it.
Well, they never dropped that. They never dropped that
and
grant.
The EFF wanted $1,000 added on top of that.
Oh God! Don't even start me on them. Yeah, I mean, you can be negative about things.
Sorry, Dogozo says our Nyaope mayor is not fixing things up there.
Listen, neither did our Dr. Mayor before him.
Exactly.
Mayor.
But have you seen him though? Like, I don't want to. No, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Like anything could be beyond, but like. He really looks like the guy that holds you up. Like, no way.
Do we have a mayor?
No standard, eh?
Do we have
no standard?
Do we have a mayor, or is someone just identifying as one? I think that's a very good question, Steve.
We have a new mayor every couple of months, aren't we?
I don't, who is the mayor at the moment?
Here's the thing. I don't care.
I can't show this. Oh, gosh.
What is it?
Can you just show that to the camera? It's the Nyaope mayor. Just put that towards your camera.
Okay, hold on. Let's do that.
That's Nyaope mayor. Who is he?
That's the mayor. What do you mean that's the mayor?
Mayor of Johannesburg, Councillor Kabelo Gwamanda.
Yeah.
Shame, yeah. Nyaope.
I think that should actually, he's standing in front of a South African Reserve Bank sign. I think that should be their new, like,
we should put him on the currency. Let's put him on the currency.
Put him on the
By the way, I got a new 50 Rand the other day when I went to the ATM. I don't go to the ATM often because who needs cash, right? But I pulled some notes out of the ATM and I saw the new 50 Rand was in there.
And
it stands out. It's very bright and shiny.
Isn't there a spelling error on there somewhere?
I don't know. I must check it again.
I think they screwed it up.
No. There's the first batch.
Error.
Yeah, the first batch, they screwed it up because they didn't consult the Tsongas. And then they
consult the Tsongas. Whoever consult the Tsongas?
No, Dr. Witt, before you perform the next heart transplant, won't you just consult the Tsongas?
No one has ever consulted the Tsongas.
But this is serious though. Like the spelling error was like they spelled bank wrong in Tsonga. So like only it's Tsonga or Shichonga. I don't know how you pronounce it. But
see, you haven't consulted them either.
I haven't consulted, but they spelled it wrong. And then they were like in an uproar. They're like, no, that's not how you spell our word.
Oh wow. But then also, I mean, listen, they need to get their structures right. We need to know who we're consulting if we're consulting the Tsongas. Like which ones?
Which ones?
Because, I mean, at least you Xhosas have got Dalin Diebo.
Thank you. Exactly.
To speak for you.
Yeah, we got the Stoner King.
Stoner, and didn't he murder someone? Wasn't he in jail for that?
Well, he conspiracy to commit murder. He sent someone to go kill someone. Hey, in his defense, he sent someone to do it.
Yeah,
like a good king,
which is
like
so much
king,
better.
Right?
I mean,
good leadership.
Yeah,
delegated.
King Charles is sending Biden to kill off the earth with
exactly
carbon
right.
taxes.
Jesus, that's another story. All right, so apparently the Dutch Parliament has collapsed. We were talking about Miss Holland earlier. I don't know much about this, but I know that Holland has been engaged in this very, very interesting battle within between the farmers.
Yes.
And the Dutch bureaucrats who are mostly also European bureaucrats based in Brussels. A lot of European countries, and particularly the smaller countries, Belgium, Liechtenstein, Holland, the smaller countries that don't really have a means of standing up to the EU. The EU just steamrolls right over their rules. And the EU makes these very, very complicated and bureaucratic rules for European countries.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that it's okay for France and Germany because they just say no. But for the other countries, they just get subsumed into
those rules are often made for those countries. So Germany will be like, there's an issue with forestry, for example, and we don't want to cut down X trees because it's bad for our countryside.
Right.
And so they make the rule you can't cut down these trees in the EU. And then it turns out that those trees are actually like a real problem in Spain.
Exactly. The invasive species in Spain.
Right. But now Spain can't cut them down because Germany says so.
Yeah. So this is what happened in Holland. And the farmers have been marginalized, and they've essentially been forced out of farming by the Dutch government.
Well, the Dutch government intends to buy something like 3,500 or 4,000 farms, which is an incredible number of farms because Holland is not exactly a big country.
But they produce an incredible amount.
Yeah, incredibly productive.
Incredible.
Their agriculture sector is basically their biggest sector.
And they are, per acre of land, they're more efficient than almost any other country in the world. So they do a tremendous job of that. And for some reason, the government is buying these farms up.
Well, because they're putting too much nitrogen into the atmosphere.
But nitrogen is
78% of the atmosphere. Yes, I know.
And so far, it does nothing
nefarious.
It certainly doesn't affect it affects the food pyramid in a very positive way.
I think it's got more to do with the soil, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't want to completely negate what they're saying, but essentially.
But nitrogen doesn't participate in.
But it's trade-offs again, right?
Organic.
It's trade-offs.
It's trade-offs again. Even if it was causing some sort of issue, you've got to take trade-offs. Okay,
Yeah,
so agriculture farming is how Netherlands gets by as a country. These people have been farming for generations. They own the land they're on. They're farming it. They're making use of it. And so if the trade-off is, we're putting some nitrogen that the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and so on doesn't like, and the EU has bought into that, well, maybe you say no because, okay, this bad thing is happening, but this very good thing is happening, and we're going to accept that there are trade-offs for what's going on. And so the news is reporting that this coalition government headed by the guy by the name of Mark Rutte.
Mark Rutte,
yeah.
He's just resigned, by the way.
Yes, and he's not going into politics, but I guarantee you'll end up in one of those consulting firms.
They called him Teflon Mark.
Oh, because nothing
nothing stuck to him in terms of the scandals around his administration. But there's a huge problem here. Obviously, the central issue, whether people like it or not, is immigration.
Yeah,
it keeps coming up as the central issue.
So that's what they said was the big issue.
Kanthan and Pumi both assured me on Thursday in the Burning Platform. I don't know if you heard it,
yes.
Dr. Witt, Bakh'abantu, but the fact is that they said, oh no, immigration is a tiny, tiny part of what's going on in France. It's not the biggest deal in France. And now in Holland, we are assured by similar people at The Guardian and Vox and Bloomberg, because those are the three articles that I saw, that immigration is not the core issue here. But it is.
It is.
Yeah, there does
Europe
seem to be a big
is obsessed
issue
at the moment with immigration because immigration is the thing that most people are concerned about. It's the top of everyone's list.
So, like the way Europe was structured, it was structured to like they're not big countries, so they structured to feed a certain number of people. And once
and to look after in terms of healthcare and education, and
then you get these people that are flooding in from Africa.
Also, by the way,
on rafts.
Also, the European population is in severe decline.
Yeah.
They're below replacement value in most of those countries.
Some guy in London got flack for saying that London is not London anymore because there's just like
London has been London for
30 years
since the Russian oligarchs and the Saudi sheiks pulled in. What are you talking about? You think you could buy? There isn't anyone who speaks English in Kensington.
Well, that's what they were saying. London's not an English city anymore, I think is what they said.
Yeah, that's what they said.
That is not a controversial thing to say.
They said it based on data that had been collected showing how many people of first language sort of English, I think, or who had been born in Britain were actually living in London. But yeah, I think there is a problem. The problem is Europe was very heterogeneous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, homogeneous.
Yeah.
And if you look at certain countries, it's much more marked. So the Nordic countries, it's filled with Danes. Denmark's filled with Danes, and they all look the same, and they all behave the same, and the culture is all the same, and it's 5-6 million people. Yeah, exactly. And every child is named the same thing, Right.
All your name Bjorn and Thor.
It's very homogenous, but that does make for a very sort of peaceful existence because there's no conflict.
Yeah, but it's easier to manage a very
similar group of people.
Yeah, once the population is as homogenous as you said it is, then everybody just kind of fits in with a certain way of thinking and doing, and it doesn't necessarily lead to any kind of breakthrough stuff, because only from conflict do we have to find solutions to problems.
Yeah,
or only from
that's why diversity, not for its own sake, but diversity can be a tremendous catalyst to.
Which is why I'm also against. Another thing I hate is this whole appropriation. We learn from other people, and then we grow.
Yeah, appropriation's stupid.
The problem is in countries are designed to function to foster a specific way that country exists.
Value system.
Essentially. And
struggling
the
with that
issue is when you suddenly import an entirely different value system en masse.
The best example of this is Sweden. There are parts of Sweden that you can't go to anymore. Malmö, because the Muslim population there is now, and it's mostly Muslim men who are living with other Muslim men, and they come straight from their first generation immigrants. They still have the value system of Syria or Iraq or Kurdistan or wherever the hell they might be from, and they come and live in a country like Sweden, where obviously they have a very different value system, and those two things bash up against each other. So you have these people calling for Sharia law, and on the other hand, you've got people who go, no, but we are a very friendly Scandinavian, open-minded society where everybody just has sex all the time, and we're depressed the rest of the time.
So this is why China puts all the Muslims in a concentration camp, but we don't talk about that.
No, we don't talk about China. We can't criticize China because China has a throttle hold on all the big global bodies and organizations. Anyway, so what do you think is going to happen here in places like Denmark? I mean, Holland, France, we see this happening all over the place. Italy is turning to the right. Hungary is very much on the right. We've got Austria, which is teetering, and I'm always nervous about when Austria does anything.
I just wonder, what does the right mean anymore? I mean, I agree. They're all going to go sort of to the right, inverted commas. But we've had some examples of so-called people from the right rising to power. Boris Johnson was essentially said to be on the right, and he behaved worse. He behaved worse than Jeremy Corbyn. At some points of COVID, you would have rather had Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, he would have put the Jews in their houses, but he would have let everyone else, roam around. That's what Corbyn would have done. Stay home and stay safe, Jews, but everyone else, you're free. You've got Meloni in Italy, who apparently was the next. She was the next Mussolini.
Yeah, they were comparing her to
Mussolini.
And I'm not being melodramatic. You can go back 6 months and find the articles in mainstream papers, and they were saying that. And now she's a dictator. Now she's in power, and frankly, she hasn't done anything spectacularly right wing. Even mildly right wing.
In fact, I thought she'd maybe been replaced because I haven't heard a single thing from her.
She went to the G8 and she did the typical stand there, and smile and with the photograph and whatever. So I don't know, like going to the right in Europe is an interesting thing. It's like in Israel, they say there's no such thing as the left. Like every government that gets elected is essentially on the right. Yeah. And I think in Europe, every government that gets elected is still on the left. Like you only get sort of center left, and then you get further left and far left. Like those are your options.
Well, I don't know what it means for immigration. I don't know what it means for governments to be able to hold any kind of sway there and be able to promulgate any meaningful legislation, change any policy. I also don't think that the individual governments of these countries matter as much anymore in an EU context.
Exactly.
Because Brussels decides.
Yeah.
And Brussels, these are unelected people.
Yeah. It's this borderless. So the EU is basically borderless, which is why the argument for Brexit was a very good argument, even though they did it stupidly and they stumbled through it like a dog, like fucking on stilettos. But
that's a description and a half.
But like the EU the EU runs this place based on a couple of countries like Belgium that we all know that, like, okay, we all know what Belgium did to Africa. We all know they're the bad guys, but they have this great propaganda machine where they push their narrative. So now the EU wants to do a certain agenda, and then they force all these other countries to toe in line. And then if you say you don't want immigration, all of a sudden you're a bad person.
You're a right winger. You're a bigot.
A right winger.
Yeah.
It's if I say I don't want a borderless Africa.
Well, I mean, try that in the Middle East. Like, try to go to Saudi Arabia and tell them that they are bigots unless
Forget
they let
Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is easy to pick on. I mean, they're obviously they're very strict and fixed. But go to Dubai. And without a visa. Like, Dubai is pretty open and pretty reasonable and all the rest, but go there without a visa. Try. It won't work out well for you.
No.
Or overstay your visa, or do something against the law there, like even mildly.
Unless you're the Guptas.
Well,
they didn't do anything against the law there.
Yes. That's why they. And when we wanted to extradite them, the Emirates were happy to extradite them if we just filled in the paperwork correctly.
Yeah, but then we stumbled our way through that,
which we couldn't do.
We couldn't do. That's why we don't think attorneys are so smart, Chris.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Here's something for you, Doctor, just before we let you go. Ekurhuleni municipalities raised the alarm about a scam in which workers use the city's public clinic attendance letters as sick notes to fool their bosses. The rise of this fraud has resulted in the city of Ekurhuleni issuing a public notice to warn employers and to teach the public about the difference between a doctor's sick note and a clinic attendance letter. Do you still get people asking you for sick notes?
Yeah, I mean, occasionally. I mean, I don't usually, because
you're not involved.
If I'm making you sleep, then I'm making you sleep for the purposes of a surgery. And then if you want a sick note, the surgeon will give you a sick note. But I mean, people do still want sick notes. Some HR
companies ask for it, right?
Yeah, more than a day. Usually, you need a sick note. All the rest of that stuff. People love getting time off work.
Sure.
They don't want their 2 days. They'd like 5. Give me off the week.
Yeah,
because they know they'll be better by the Wednesday.
And these days, as much as we're taking mental health seriously, and we've always taken mental health seriously on this show. I mean, we've taken it more seriously than most shows.
But we have a show called Beyond Madness.
But even before that, when we were doing terrestrial radio, I was still talking about mental health and saying, well, if you've got a problem there, it's the same as having a physical ailment, which it is. But I think people are taking serious advantage now when they need mental health days. And it's just because they're not feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic in itself. People just like not coping with the world, and I mean, in some senses, it's real. Obviously, people do get overwhelmed, but some things are just like, it's like life is not perfect. Like, move on.
This is a bit of a sidetrack and like an anecdote, but like, listen to this, Dr. Witt. So, at Bakh'abantu, how do you deal with traditional medicine? If someone wants to come and perform like, what do you do? Like, then in the trauma unit, you there trying to triage, trying to stop the blood, and then they're saying we need to put these herbs inside this person. Yeah, Sangoma comes, we need to put these herbs.
I'm not at Barra anymore, but I can, although I am still in state practice. But I never had that problem sort of in the trauma unit, because the nice thing about it's like when anyone has a real emergency, then they generally are not arguing with you. Like when people are bleeding from the neck, nobody's coming and saying to you, "I don't believe in."
Jehovah's Witnesses, though, do they still not want blood?
No, they don't want blood. No, that's a standard. No blood to the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Bye. Right, cheers.
You see, ruthless pragmatism.
You can't. You just got to try.
Knocking on heaven's door.
Sometimes, yeah. And they don't mind that. So, that's
what they want.
Sure. But no,
so
you
that would include Venus and Serena Williams, right?
Are they Jehovah's Witnesses? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then they know the good news.
They know the good news, but it's not great news if they end up in the trauma.
I wonder if that's why Serena doesn't play anymore, though. I wonder if she had some sort of.
Oh no, she's having babies.
She's a mom.
She's popping out babies.
Having babies involves bleeding.
Exactly. But do you remember Venus? Venus got sick, and then she stayed home for like the longest time, and then she came back and blamed her failure at Wimbledon on the grass.
On the grass.
On the grass. She said, "I'm not used to grass."
Oh, come on! Listen, I admire the fact that she even came back and tried. And for Serena, she's over it. What does she still have to prove?
Yeah.
She want to get on the tennis court for. Again, it's like Elton John doing his last concert. Done. Thank you. I've won at being a rock star.
There's no way he will stop, though.
You think so?
Yeah, he'll be back 2 years' time. I mean, also he can't stay home with that oak. I mean, He's very annoying.
No, David Furnish.
Yeah.
Isn't he the one who he is like big friends with Meghan and Harry, and he commissioned their podcast or he produced it with Netflix or something like that, David
Well,
Furnish.
Elton John was like big buds with Diane.
Diana.
Diana.
Diane.
Oh,
So, Diane from
He's not
Boxford.
from the East End. Eh?
Oh, how's it? Aren't you that Princess Diane?
well, you know, Diane is like an acronym, right? Died in a nasty accident or
Oh,
something like that.
stop it. So, all right. But yeah, Prince Harry and Meghan, I think there's some kind of relationship they've got with David Furnish, who's really, I mean, talk about
He's a Nochschlepper.
he's a Nochschlepper in the most perfect sense of that. Do you know what Nochschlepper is? Someone
no,
who
explain.
joins on and
Like a
schleps
tag
along with
along.
you.
Oh, no, he rides the
Doesn't offer
coattails.
great
Coattails.
value.
He runs.
David Furnish has done, as far as I can tell, and I'd be willing to hear any argument to the contrary, but he has seemingly done nothing important in his life except be Elton John's husband.
Exactly. Like in South Africa, that's called an ice boy. He's
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Ice boy.
So when we're having a braai, everyone brings those beers, everyone brings meat, and then you just bring the ice. It's like 12
is that
rand.
You can't screw it up.
And you can't screw it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless you forget to stop at the garage.
Exactly.
So David Furnish, anyway, you reckon Elton John probably can't stand him now after all these years. It's time.
There's no way he's going to go home after being on the road, concerts, people
Yeah.
like fawning over him, and just go home and be in
Sit
his.
with David.
He's like, I don't know, where does he live in? Like Yorkshire or
Oh,
something.
he's got a huge big house in Windsor. Huge.
Oh,
He's
okay.
got a helipad and
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
wouldn't have a helipad unless he wanted to leave in a hurry.
I leave this quick.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Roland wants to ask you a serious question before we let you go. Dr. Witt, how do you confront your peers with your view on COVID, etc.? My good friend in Australia, who's an anesthetist, had 6 jabs already.
Sure. Triple
Well, I know you had a
triple
tough.
boosted.
I know you had a tough time because there were a lot of people who were very, very pissed off with you.
Yeah.
Have those people kind of taken their foot off the accelerator in terms of giving you shit, or are they still on you?
No, they seem to have taken their foot off the accelerator.
Because you've been proven right.
Yes,
and they've
they've
been proven
disappeared,
wrong.
and they obviously have now nothing to say. Yeah, I think some people just avoided me during COVID, and other people argued with me or told me I was wrong, and now now I just go, so I was right, and then they just kind of like look away.
They're embarrassed. They're embarrassed.
Shame,
So-
Bell. Shame.
so-
Yeah,
correct.
Shame.
That's a good reason to ring it.
Shame.
Yeah, it's South
loud
Africa
bell.
was a lot better than places like Australia, Canada. They're places where being a medical professional, if you were not, on the side
board.
of narrative, it probably was borderline unbearable.
Well, I mean, listen, you didn't have it easy. And I can say this now as a friend of yours and someone who kind of was involved with you at some point in this journey. And you stood up for a lot of things. You stood up for kids not having to be
Masked
injected
masked and out of school.
And I think that's extremely brave. You're not going to get credit from the medical establishment, but I'll give you credit, and I'll tell you that lots of people in this country are extremely grateful that you did what you did. And a bunch of other people, wasn't just you.
Yeah.
But honestly, we're now in a position to look back and say, well done and thank you. And I know you're not here for compliments. You didn't come in here for this morning.
No.
But I think that's a great question to end things on. And it's always a pleasure to have you in the studio because you speak your mind and you do what you say. That's my definition of integrity. And if you're not going to have integrity in the subject which you practice every day, then, get out. Just get out. Do something else.
Or be open to discussion. I think, that isn't that one of the biggest lessons of that whole experience is like, man, you can't only have one side of an argument because something's horribly wrong then.
Someone needs to argue the devil's argument, like the devil's advocate.
Yeah. I didn't think so.
Which George Patton said, if everyone's thinking the same, somebody isn't thinking.
There we go. Great note to end it on. Thank you, Dr. Witt. Thank you, Bakh'abantu. Thank you, most importantly, to everybody who was joining in this morning and everybody who's still going to listen on the podcast. If you want more info, you can get it at cliffcentral.com and follow the links to all the things that we discussed this morning, including travel.co.za. If you're looking to plan a little break, you need to get out of the cold. cliffcentral.com. We will see
Like
you
and subscribe.
tomorrow. Yeah. Why do you do that?
Because it's down
It's
there.
somewhere
It's down there.
up there
Up
and
there or
there
whatnot.
and-
But like somewhere down there, like and subscribe.